We almost pulled it off, despite what everybody thought.
Following program has adult language and plenty of spoilers. Listener, be advised.
So you guys want to talk about Joker and Harley Quinn now?
Go ahead.
I'm a legal machine.
Diabolu Frank.
Mr. Fixit.
Fryhole called me earlier to bitch about Suicide Squad for like an hour and a half, so
What do you have to say about it?
I'm a little tired out. Oh, he hated it. He went with several other of our friends. Okay, so we'll just call him Mr. Baloney. Mr. Baloney hate really bad movies. Like, he literally will go find a bad movie because that's what he liked, and he fell asleep in the middle of the movie.
Okay, so wait, he hate bad movies or he enjoys
No, he enjoys bad movies.
So he likes to hate watch them or he's just plain has bad taste?
No, he just has bad taste.
Okay.
But he still will sit there and enjoy to watch it. And he was talking about how this movie was so bad it put him to sleep. And then, of course, there was another group of our friends that were there with them. It was two women, and they bitched and complained that was part of their life that they'll never get back. So
wait, did you go with these people, or did Fryhole go with these people and tell you about it?
Fryhole went with them. Yeah, he called me out of the blue today just to bitch about how much he hated that movie.
See, we need to get him trained to call me, because then I can get it recorded, and then he can be in more podcasts.
Oh, no, he wanted to do it too, but he wasn't sure. He worked like a big shift today, so he was exhausted.
Yeah, and I wasn't available to record during the day really either, so
right.
yeah. He's like just like leaving us a long voicemail. Yeah. So what else did he have to say about it?
Kind of the same complaints most people had. It was kind of a hot mess. There was not very. He took a little offense to it because he reads the Suicide Squad, so he was really pissed that they took some really large liberties with the character. That seemed to really bother him. What I get from
was he a reader from the New 52 or even further back?
No, from all the way back to Ostrander. I think he read some of that old stuff too, and so he was not happy with the changes they made. We both kind of agreed that Will Smith basically played Will Smith in the movie. He's never really a villain. He's that villain with a heart of gold type thing. So yeah, it was fun, but it did get tiresome to bitch and whine about that movie because I've yet to meet. I need to meet someone who can defend it to me. Everyone I've met has all bitched about it. Be it family or friends from work or anybody.
So okay, so that's the
they
test.
all bitched about it.
Did your sister see it?
No, not yet.
Okay, so she's the one. If she hates it, then the entire world's gonna hate it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She loved Ghostbusters. I'm still fucking angry about that she enjoyed Ghostbusters and she defended it.
Did she like the girl power aspect of it?
She actually told me if I had a daughter, I would take her to this movie. And I told her, if you had a daughter, I would tell her, don't ever be like this movie. Let's go watch Aliens or Game of Thrones. Be like them. Be like them.
Hey, definitely don't have a child watch Game of Thrones, though.
Yeah, please.
Well, I'm hoping by that time she's like 16, 17. That's old enough to watch Game of Thrones, no?
So not only does your sister have to have a kid, but the kid has to grow to adulthood before we can even have this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I'm going to put her in one of those deprivation chambers, and the child will not be exposed to anything.
Do not say a fucking word about Stranger Things. Okay, I do not want to hear you say it.
You didn't finish watching it?
No, I'm 2 episodes away from finishing it up. Don't spoil a goddamn thing.
I'm 2 episodes in, so don't say a damn thing about it. We're going to knock out a couple more tonight, so shut up, both of you.
Well, I watched it, and it was fantastic.
Great. Don't even talk anymore. Hard. And the first 2 are just really set up. It hasn't even really blown up yet, so it's going to get that much better. But we're not going to talk about Stranger Things. And by the way, I assume we're all in the same place too. Everybody else.
I just want to say one thing. I love that intro music.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
God, I every time, you know how you binge watch something, which I binge watched that show today. But you know how usually you binge watch something, you get tired of the intro and you will skip it as quick as you can.
Yeah. See Daredevil.
I went back several times just to hear it again. I enjoyed it so much.
No, I really like the Daredevil opening too. I like that music as well. Yeah, I like the Daredevil opening. I wasn't skipping on that one. Jessica Jones I could skip on, but not Daredevil. There was actually an article from a guy who was complaining about the music on the show, and he was like, if you've watched the whole season, then that means you listen to the intro 8 times at least. Can you hum the music to that? It's like, well, it's instrumental music, so it's not quite as much of an earworm, but the music throughout the show is so great. And also it's like the guy wanted like more 80s style music, and it's like, it's not a pastiche, it's set in that time period. It has that flavor to it, but it's still obviously being told to a modern audience. It's taking in all that material from the 80s and 90s and giving you something new based on that vibe, but it's not like slavishly devoted to having, like, you're the best around kind of bullshit.
Yeah, and that's the key, is they're not beating you over the head with it. It's just set in the time period.
Yeah.
And that's why I like it so much already. I'm like, I don't need them to be all like, whatever, like making Family Ties jokes and bullshit like that.
Yeah,
like, I don't need that.
Forcing it.
Right. Don't force it, etc.
It makes sense to keep referencing.
I just like it because it seems to build the atmosphere of the movie or the show.
Oh, sure.
Like it plays into it.
Oh, yeah. It's just great score. If they release that score, I'm going to have to buy it. But yeah,
I've been listening to it on YouTube, so.
Yeah, it could be a show about being in the 80s. It's not about being in the 80s. It just happens to be set there, and that's part of what makes it so great.
Yeah.
Right.
Frank, let me ask you, because, we're both from the 80s. When you do watch those episodes, does it kind of flash back to, like, watching those special programs that popped up on, Channel 39 or something, like, like V or things of that nature?
The main vibe I get from this, and I'm not saying anything new, but it very much feels like the early 80s Stephen King movie, like Firestarter and Dead Zone and all that. I mean, they even had that Stephen King used to have that certain font on all of his book covers, and it even has the logo is that font. So yeah, it's definitely tweaking that nostalgia clip. So
oh my God.
Yeah, right there, baby,
man.
right there.
Maybe, I'm not going to watch any more of the show now.
What, don't you want your clit to flick?
No, I don't want my nostalgic clit to get tweaked.
Okay, and that's all we're going to say about Stranger Things, because we're all at different points on it. I don't want to fuck it up, but do note that the sheriff was in Suicide Squad.
I know, he was probably the best thing in Suicide Squad.
No.
Oh God, I'm ready to go. Okay, Frank, I'm going to punch you in your uterus. I swear to God, the next time I see you.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Go talk about my uterus, please.
No. I want you to defend this fucking movie to me. I really want you to.
Why would I do that?
My understanding was that you enjoyed the film quite a bit.
Who told you that?
Am I wrong here?
No. He didn't say he enjoyed. I read you showing you on Twitter while we were standing in line what he said. He never said, I enjoyed this film. I think, what was it? What'd you say?
Things along the lines of stuff like, it's not as bad as the critics say.
Right. That's what he was saying. He was saying it's not as bad as the critics say.
It's definitely better than Batman versus Superman.
I don't know. I think I would go back and watch that Ultimate Edition again.
No way in hell. I'm watching 3-hour-long garbage again. Forget
that. I've watched this film twice, so I think I've earned a right to talk shit about it. And the second viewing only made it worse.
Well, please feel free to elaborate.
Where should we start?
Okay, well, hold on. Let's do this. We'll put a little structure on this thing. Okay. Real quick, Mac, do you have any experience with Suicide Squad prior to seeing the movie?
Only the trailers.
Okay, so you never read a single Suicide Squad comic in your life?
No, sir.
Have we ever even discussed it with you? Because that's kind of a deep dive for DC.
We've I think it's come up on the podcast before.
Well, no, I mean, you mean the comic?
Yeah, we've talked about this because we've previewed these Suicide Squad trailers and crap for
right. But my point is, though, is
years now.
There weren't any like Suicide Squad characters in like Overpower. We didn't ever use any of them really in like our little Mayfair role playing games or anything like that. Any random?
No.
I never liked Brett Deadshot into any of those, did I?
I don't believe. Well, maybe.
I thought
maybe.
I know how to use the Rainbow Raider because you almost killed him.
Yeah. Those are good times.
Good times. So you fix it. What have you read of Suicide Squad?
I remember you gave me a bunch of stuff when you had your shop out of the quarter bin.
Yeah, I figured you'd like it.
Yeah, I remember you were like, "Oh, you'll dig this," and I remember I enjoyed it quite a bit. I wasn't a huge DC guy at the time, but I remember you gave me some stuff, and I was like, "This is really cool." And you're like, "Oh yeah," I think you sold it to me on the fact that characters die constantly, so don't get too comfortable with them. And I thought that was kind of cool because nobody was really doing that, and I was really into Vertigo at the time. I think I was reading Preacher and all that stuff at the time. So yeah, you gave me a bunch out of the quarter bin. I think you even gave me a deal. Like you sold them even cheaper to me just so I would read them. And if I remember correctly, I was reading that and what was that book you gave me about Peter David at the same time? Dreadstar.
Oh, the miniseries, the Bravura miniseries or the old...
you gave me that and Dreadstar. And so I was reading all that at the same time.
Okay,
so I actually went to the local library to recheck out those trades.
Yeah, because they've been releasing them lately, right?
Huh?
They've been re-releasing the Ostrander stuff in trades lately, right?
I think it's like 4 trades of it.
So far, yeah, they've got more to go. The book ran about 5 years.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Well, they got 4 of them at the library. Fryhole gave me a couple of the 52 version, and I got through about 3 issues before I was just like, nah, I wasn't really feeling it.
I've not read a single thing in the New 52 incarnation. What's the difference between the two of them?
I believe in this one, the Wall is like a supermodel.
Yeah.
Didn't you bitch about that?
Oh, yeah.
If I remember correctly, the Ostrander stuff, none of those characters were like A-list characters.
Yeah, no,
I mean, kind of felt they were going to die.
Yeah,
where this one you have,
Okay, well, I was going to say the whole point is it was the Dirty Dozen as supervillains, and I think that because DC was in the process of Marvelizing and they were trying to appeal to a younger, hipper audience, basically Suicide Squad treated all those old Silver Age villains with contempt. So the idea is put them in grim, dark adventures and have them get killed off in a really spectacular way, as clear out all the garbage supervillains that nobody wanted to fool with. So you could really kind of go nuts with them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, you're saying in the New 52 now you've got like stars that are going to be in the book, and yeah,
you got like Harley Quinn. You know she's never going to die. At least I'm assuming. I didn't finish. He gave me like the first first 2 trades, and I got through 3 issues, and I was kind of like, you know what, I got a lot of other shit I'd rather read. Like, I don't really need to read this, so I just kind of put it on the back burner. I'm trying to remember, dude. That's why I want to reread this stuff to see if it holds up as well as when I read it. Because I remember when I read it, I liked it a lot, and I kept those quarter books for a long time before, you know, after all the moving, I lost track of them. But I remember I enjoyed them quite a bit.
Well, what I've heard a lot is that if nothing else, a lot of people are happy that the old stuff is getting reprinted because of this movie, and the people who've been buying those trades and rereading are saying how well they hold up. And Ostrander stuff has always had a greater life than your average comic book writer. When I interviewed him a few months back, that's one of the things I made a point of mentioning to him is that, you know, his stuff holds up better than virtually anybody's when it comes to the decades-long span. You go back and you read a bunch of other stuff in the 80s, and it has that cheesy 80s vibe to it, where his stuff, it still could be put out today. And that his last miniseries, you read that one, right? I gave you the trade on that one to read?
Which one?
From the Ashes?
No, I haven't got to it yet.
You didn't read that one yet? Oh, it's got great art, and it's at least as good as anything he did on the original run.
Hey, did he write Spectre for a while?
Oh, yeah, for about 5 years. Him and Tom Mandrake did that together.
You told me that was really good too, right?
Yeah, especially the ending to that one. I've always said that the ending to Spectre was better than the ending to Preacher. Preacher should have had as good of an ending as Spectre had.
I think I remember you telling me. I kind of want to read that now. Somebody had brought it up to me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you got to read Spectre." Ostrander wrote it, and I was like, you know, I remember Frank had told me that, but I never really got to it. So that's definitely on my I have to do list now.
There's definitely key issues in there that I think you would enjoy. I think over the course of a series, you would prefer Suicide Squad because it's more in your wheelhouse. But there are at least key issues within the Spectre run I think you'd like. But because he's playing such a long game with Spectre, I think you might get bored with it in places. But like I said, the ending is really great. So you might want to cherry pick more. I would focus on Suicide Squad, especially if you're getting trades out of the library.
Well, I got the first 4 coming, so I'm going to like power read through them because I want to reread them. I wish I had read that before we did this podcast, but
don't worry about it. We can talk about that some other time. The New 52 issues you read, though, did they have like El Diablo in the new issues?
Honestly, dude, I don't remember. I read them when they first came out, like when the trade first came out, and that trade's probably been on my pile for about a year now.
Well, I wanted to say, because they did a new El Diablo before Flashpoint. He had his own miniseries, and they made him basically what you saw in the movie, a gangbanger with fire powers and such. And then I thought that he was part of the initial New 52 group with King Shark and some other guys. Because that's my...
He wasn't like that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. So it seems like the movie more closely reflects the New 52 version than the old one.
Huh. Because I was going to ask you that if that's how Diablo was in the comic.
I always meant to read them, and I might even have them, but I haven't ever gotten to actually read them. Why don't we just go ahead and start talking about the movie now that we've talked about our backstory?
Okay, so I was going to tell you, I think I discussed this with Mac. If DC were to meet Hot Topic in a club, go home and have dirty, disrespecting, I hate you sex, where like DC spitting on Hot Topic and slapping her, just being very disrespectful, and then 6 weeks later, Hot Topic had an abortion, that's Suicide Squad to me.
That's an analogy.
So like 3.5 stars, or...
I'm feeling a third of a star. I watched it twice. I'm being honest. The second time, I hated the movie even more because I actually sat there and I knew what was going to happen. And it was like, you couldn't avert seeing this. I was like, if they just made a change or did something different, I could get it. I mean, it's not as bad as maybe Superman versus Batman, but it wasn't good. To me, DC's literally shit the bed 3 times now. I saw Batman versus Superman was horrible. The Killing Joke was horrible. Suicide Squad was horrible. It's like, they're no longer just shitting the bed. Now they're walking around the house and just shitting on the carpet. They're shitting on the coffee table. It's like they don't care. They just feel like if we throw out a product, people are going to pay to see it.
Honestly, I would disagree. I think the problem is they care too much. They want so much. So? They want so much to have the Marvel universe, and they're trying so hard to figure out how to do that without looking like, because they know if they just copy the Marvel movies, everybody's going to call them out on it, and they're just going to be treated as copycats and inferior. And they, I think, have the mentality, look, we've got Superman, we've got Batman, we got Wonder Woman. You know, we should be on top right off the bat. I mean, we had the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, so why is it that everybody's treating us like we're second rate and we're late Johnny come latelys and stuff? And then, so that's why I think they went into there with a lot of arrogance on Man of Steel and with Batman vs. Superman. And then when they saw the reaction and how bad it was and realizing our brand is taking a major hit over this, and I think they're trying to course correct and make their stuff more like Marvel. But the problem is you don't make a movie and pretty much have it completed and then go, now let's try to make it like a Marvel movie. And then they go and they do the reshoots. And you've heard there's all kinds of behind the scenes stuff where they had like a trailer cut, a trailer company re-edited the movie and they showed that to audiences versus the director's actual cut. And then, like I said, they did those reshoots to try to make them like a merge of the two visions. And you can tell that there's just too many cooks in this kitchen. And that's, I think, why it's atonal as fuck. But I think it's about desperation. I think they just, after Batman vs. Superman underperformed, it didn't make the bill. This one isn't going to make the bill. They couldn't figure out who they wanted to copy. We're going to rip off Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to try to rip off Deadpool. They tried to do both. They managed to be a pale shadow of either. One of my biggest complaints was I saw a really good movie here. There could have been a really good movie, I think. I could be wrong.
No,
You think so, though, Mac?
No. I mean, unless so, this is where I kind of am conflicted a little bit with this because with like Fantastic Four, which had similar studio meddling, right, where they panicked because it was so bad they panicked, right?
But that's the thing about Fantastic Four is we all saw that movie. 3/4 of that movie is a singular vision, and then the last quarter it suddenly just goes bugfuck crazy.
Well, but I do think some of the editing in the middle feels a little bit choppy. It's not nearly as choppy as this movie is. In the beginning, it starts going all over the place later on. But like, you can't convince me any part of Fantastic Four was going to be good. Like, you can't tell me there's some director's cut out there that's some masterpiece, whether it's Josh Trank's or the studios or the melding of the two, that's any good. There's not going to be some crazy special edition that comes out that I'm like, oh man, finally we get to see Josh Trank's vision and it's so amazing. No, none of that movie was good. This movie, I'm not entirely sure it was good before either. People were trying to compliment the beginning, like the character introductions, then it kind of goes off the rails later on when it turns into Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. But really, I didn't think the beginning was I didn't think the character introductions were very good. In my opinion, all of the fan service music, it seemed to me, added after the fact. Guardians of the Galaxy up to the Intent, where they're like, every, scene change, we got to throw a different 90s, 2000s popular song in. Like,
they got the 80s crowd in there too. Matter of fact, I think they even had some 70s stuff there. They made sure to get as many demos as they could to get to their happy spot.
But it was so many in rapid succession at one point in the movie that I was like rolling my eyes. I'm like, are you like, I know what you're doing.
When even the mouth breathers are recognizing they're being emotionally manipulated, you've definitely been heavy-handed with that shit.
Well, you didn't have to call me a mouth breather, but yes.
No. I'm talking about everybody though. Everybody, like, you know how sometimes somebody will see one of these movies and they totally fall for shit that you're like, give me a fucking break. Are you kidding me with this shit? You fell for that shit? I haven't talked to anybody that wasn't like, man, they threw a whole bunch of, radio hits at everybody all at once and everybody realized what they were doing. Like, nobody fell for it.
Some people are like, I love the soundtrack. Some people genuinely think the soundtrack's awesome. And I don't know how you don't understand how poorly used those songs were. You were just throwing them out there. Like, I don't know. You have to use music appropriately. And if you don't recognize the music in this movie was just horribly used, then you just like everything anyway, right?
Well, you know what I mean? Here's the defense I'll have for the music. I think that if whatever they spent on music, and I'm sure they spent a pretty penny to get that many hits, I wish that they'd tripled the budget and just had music throughout the entire movie to mask some of the stank. It's like, it still smells shitty, but if you put some air freshener up, at least you can kind of roll with it a little bit more. I was actually able to treat it like it was a long, violent music video for a while there, and then the music stops and you're like, fuck, now I'm even more aware how shitty this movie is.
It goes back to generic studio suspense music. And it does that kind of in the beginning too, like when, what's the main chick's name in all this?
Harley Quinn?
What's her name? Who put the team together?
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller, yeah.
During her scene in the cafe when they're eating dinner, or the restaurant they're eating dinner, there's all this like somber music, and it seems like that was going to be the original tone, and then you get all these poppy fan service hits jumping in, and then they jump back to that somber music for the rest of the movie. And that was one thing I told Fixit when we got to the movie. It just seemed like music was playing 100% of the time in this film. It had to be playing behind every single scene. There was just music, and which is just strange to me. I don't remember any other movies like that where there's literally no scenes when even people are just conversing and there's not music playing in the background.
Yeah, that's a complaint that people have had about the Marvel movies, is that their scores are kind of weak. They're kind of lame, and for the most part, you don't remember the scores on Marvel movies. They use them sparingly, and they're not very distinctive. So I guess that's another way they were trying to stand apart.
Is just playing continuous music from the beginning to the end. Well, and I agree. I think the Marvel scores are pretty. Like, I hate Iron Man's. Oh, the one from the first couple Iron Man movies is so lame when he goes flying around. It's like the worst music ever. But this one, it wasn't even memorable, and I didn't hate it enough to remember it. The contrast between the music being played was just really bizarre, and that just added to how obvious it was that this is two different movies or three different movies spliced together. And it just seemed to jump, and the edits were these harsh edits, these harsh endings to scenes and harsh beginnings to scenes, and it just seemed like somebody cut it up at home and put it together. It just seemed super bootleg.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to mention about the music too is over the weekend, one of the cable channels was running Donnie Darko, and so I caught it as I was working. That music is so iconic, and even the songs that I didn't know when I first saw the movie are now dear to me because I connect so much emotionally with how they were presented in that movie. And honestly, I know that they played a whole bunch of hits at the beginning of Suicide Squad. I can't actually remember any of this individual tracks, though. I don't remember what they played anymore.
Sympathy for the Devil,
Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously.
CCR.
Oh God, yeah, the most obvious ones possible. That's right. Now it's coming back to me. Yeah, Born on the Bayou, Sympathy for the Devil, the songs that have been played in every movie always. How many Vietnam movies has CCR popped up in?
Somebody singing Sympathy for the Devil, and then when Bohemian Rhapsody, I heard the people sitting next to us, they were all singing it together.
Well, did they actually have it? I don't even remember it. It was in the movie?
I think so.
Which one?
At the end, wasn't it?
Nothing really
I mean, I thought the special effects were okay for what they were.
I thought the special effects were horrid in this movie. Absolutely embarrassingly bad for a movie that had, what was this movie, like $175 million budget or something like that?
Well, when you bring an entire cast that big together to do reshoots, that's going to shoot your budget way through the roof.
Oh my God.
They probably added an extra $25 million to it.
Everything with the Enchantress, especially at the end, was horrible. I'm talking like, these were like Nintendo 64 effects or Final Fantasy 7 effects.
The Incubus?
What did they call the Demonites or whatever? The freaking,
I don't remember what the turd men were.
They were, well, yeah.
The dried turd men.
Could those have been any less imaginative?
No.
I mean, like what were they? Am I supposed to remember them? And they were all shot so dark. Like everything was so dark in those scenes. I'm like, wait.
You know what that is. That's the pussification. That's the PG-13. They couldn't actually shoot real people and have blood splatters, so they came up with the turd men, and they could chop the turd men's heads off and blow them to pieces and still get their PG-13. That's what that was all about.
I guess so. I guess that's great. And they were all just, like I said, everything was like heavily shadowed, and it was just, I hated all that.
I mean, the special effects weren't anything spectacular. I mean, it's your basic summer hit.
I disagree. I thought they were Legends of Tomorrow bad.
Really?
Like, I thought they were CW effect.
I honestly, I can agree with that. The big thing about the Berlantiverse shows is that they sometimes have okay effects, but if it's good looking, like the Martian Manhunter effect, they'll have it on screen for like 30 to 60 seconds every 5 episodes. You know, the really good effects. And then they'll have the cheesier ones that they sprinkle throughout the episode. And it looked to me like these were the cheesier effects, and they just had the budget to have those cheesy effects for more screen time. But that didn't mean that they were good and polished. And I think that's another instance of they were in such a rush to get this thing out that they didn't do a good job on it.
Dude, how is that possible? I've been seeing trailers for this film, I feel like literally for 18 months.
Yeah, because they've been stoking those fires, and every time they like shoot something, here's a new trailer. They'll shoot some more, here's a new sizzle.
What's the rush? What were they rushing?
Because they're trying to catch up with Marvel. Marvel's been putting out these movies for years. I'm telling you, that's what they've been doing.
No. So you could say the plot's set because they rushed it.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Special effects aren't rushed.
Yes, they can be.
True.
Absolutely, they can be.
No, it's just a shitty studio. That's what it is.
No,
they
but
did a shitty studio, and they didn't pay them any money.
No, that's
Well,
bullshit.
let me ask you back. What special effect that was shitty stood out to you?
Everything with the Enchantress at the end of the movie.
Oh God, it was so bad,
so terrible. It was absolutely horrible.
What was the whole thing like? Just like this gray shit's coming out of Cara Delevingne Enchantress.
Yeah,
what is this shit?
There's a halo of garbage floating over the city.
And what is that about? Is she telekinetic? What is this machine? This magic machine they're making? What is it going to do? All they tell you is it's going to exterminate humanity. Well, how does it work? Exactly what method are they going to use?
What is it?
Is the whole thing? Is it they're going to turn us all into turd people? Is that what it is?
Right. They never. I'm like, what are we scared of? What is going to happen? It's just going to swirl and swirl over. Like, what is happening here? I don't understand what's happening. And that's not something that was edited in after. You know what I mean? Like the whole ending isn't new. There's no way they created a whole new ending because there's just no way that's why I'm saying I think this movie sucked before.
No, well here's the thing, and it probably was going to suck anyway. But what I will say, because you're trying to say they weren't rushing it, here's the fact: Warner Brothers was the top earning studio for many years, and one of the
Harry Potter movies.
They had Harry Potter, they had the Hobbit movies, they had a whole bunch of stuff that was hitting, and they were the number one studio. And now they've dropped significantly, especially under a new head. I can't remember the fellow's name now, the Asian fella. So they went from being the top dogs to they're getting further and further down the list. They're not getting a lot of hits. And so one of the big things they've got, their tentpoles, are the DC movies, and they're trying to chase after Marvel and create that kind of universe and create those kinds of surefire hits. And they're trying to come back to Harry Potter. And Paquita, she read the script that they came out with for that stage play, The Cursed Child, and she hated it. She loathes it because it's so obvious that it reads like bad fan fiction, and all they're doing is they are playing Back to the Future, going back to the books and screwing around with stuff, and they're not advancing the characters, and they're playing around with the characters and messing them up. And so she just loathed it. And so now you're going to go in there and do a whole series of movies based on that kind of crap. So Warner Brothers is in a real bad spot, and their current management is looking worse and worse. That's where the rush is they're desperate to get these hits out, but that desperation is making the product worse and worse, and it's making them second guess themselves. Because I mean, that's what they were marketing themselves on, was, oh, Marvel, they're like assembly line movies. They're made by Marvel Studios. Those aren't movies made by filmmakers. We're going to be the auteur superhero movies. And then they're taking away the auteur powers from everybody. If anybody had that power, it was Zack Snyder, and he abused that power, and now everybody else is going to pay the price for that. Because you remember, like, James Wan was talking about jumping ship on Aquaman. I think they had to talk him off the ledge on that one.
I get that. I know that from that aspect they're rushing, but you can't. I'm just saying the special effects aren't shitty because they're rushing.
Yo, they can be though, because the thing is, you can make
there's no way. This is what studios do. If you contract a studio that makes special effects for films, this is all they fucking do. So all you have to do is tell them what they're supposed to make, and they can make it.
They can make it, but the level of detail to make the stuff look good and to make sure it matches with the film that's been shot, that they're still filming right up to the deadline. You're trying to incorporate the CGI into this film that's being shot with live action people. So yes, it can be rushed because you're not going to have the polish on it. You're just going to push it out and you're going to cut back on detail. And there was a lot of effects in that movie that they had to just knock out real quick to get something on the screen. So you can definitely go cheap because you're not going to have the level of detail. It's just like the difference between a video game that's been in development for years and years and it's going to be one of the 10 poles for one of these game designers, and some shit that gets knocked out off the side on the cheap. You can do a bad job on anything. Why would CGI be different from cranking out a movie too quick?
No, I'm just saying. I think there's a difference between a bad job and then making the excuse they didn't have enough time. If freaking Legends of Tomorrow can get their shit out every single week, there's no way this feature film couldn't get out anything better in the amount of time they had.
And I disagree. I think that it was going to be shitty because it was a big rush job. Now, I'm not saying it's still shitty. I mean, who cares why it was shitty? It's still shitty. We agree with that.
Well, no, I think that the point is that this is a theme with all of their movies. That's why I think that Justice League trailer looked so shitty. Well, Batman vs Superman looked shitty. I don't think Man of Steel, from what I saw, the effects in that film looked particularly great.
I think
Batman vs Superman looked like shit. Now Suicide Squad looked like crap. I mean, this is just the style they've chosen is bad CGI.
Fixit, you and I have seen Man of Steel. I personally thought Man of Steel's effects were pretty good.
No, they didn't look great. The fight scenes, they looked very, very CG.
I liked
everything
them.
looked CG.
I didn't. Let me put it this way: they were a lot better than what we've seen in Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad, though.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go with you on that. I would say it was better, but not much better.
Well, these movies are going to get less and less CG.
You think so?
No, I don't think they are.
Oh.
I think Man of Steel was probably going to have the least amount of CGI because the guy flying around. Since it's mostly an origin story. I mean, obviously there's no CGI with him in Canada except for that awful looking, Kansas, except for that awful looking tornado that hit would look horrible.
Yeah.
That was some Twister level garbage.
Admittedly, that was shit.
Yes.
Anyway, I didn't like the special effects, guys. Here's another thing that pissed me off about the story. How about I didn't give a shit about any of these characters, which they should have used to then kill them off, but instead they all basically survived to the end of the fucking movie. And I'm like, wow, I hate all of you. You're all super shitty. Like Deadshot. Why am I supposed to feel some sort of compassion for this guy? Am I supposed to? Where's the redemption story? Because he's not really a bad guy. What you showed me, you're going to show him killing mobsters? Does that and taking advantage of the mob? That makes him a bad guy?
Well, and this is another problem too. Is they made that big point about how he's wanting to be with his daughter. Everything he's doing is about trying to get free and get back with his daughter. The whole reason he gets caught is because his daughter gets between him and Batman, and he's not willing to sacrifice his daughter. And then when they give him his finest dream, it's that he kills Batman and his daughter's not around. And it's like, really? That's your dream is to not have your daughter in the picture and just go ahead and do what you want to do without her? So
yeah, and I've heard people try to spin that like, no, because if he kills Batman, then he gets to stay with his daughter. And I'm like, that's super weird that in his fantasy, his daughter's not even in it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that's cool. You can try and no prize that, but not effective. And also, hey, Batman, if you're going to arrest people for killing mobsters, maybe you should then turn yourself in, buddy, because that's all you did in your prior film was just murder mobster after mobster after mobster. But apparently you're taking Deadshot in for it, which I thought was a little hilarious. And if allegedly Deadshot did a bunch of other worse stuff, well, you didn't show it to me. You showed him ripping off the mob and killing a mob informant.
Well,
I mean,
how about this? Maybe you don't try to arrest the guy when his kid's right next to him, and you know that this guy's prone to shooting at people. Maybe you wait until the kid's dropped off and then arrest him.
Afterwards.
Yeah, because she's already got the mom that's like super depressed and doesn't get out of bed. But even setting that aside, just as a pragmatic matter, why would you even put the child in the situation in the first place? Batman's really bad at being a superhero.
Yeah, he's not good being a superhero. Because maybe he's not a superhero. Not sure. But I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, wait a second. He's killing mobsters and Batman's mad about that? I'm like, dude, that's all you did in Batman vs Superman. Well, he went on a 20-minute rampage and killed a bunch of mobsters. I don't get it.
He specifically killed informants, though, so he's getting in the way of getting other mobsters arrested.
Sure.
Whatever. No. Well, no, I hate the fact that because Will Smith played him, he had to be the villain with a heart of gold, which I think defeats the purpose. He's not supposed to be redeemable, right? I mean, he's a villain. He's a scumbag. You shouldn't really feel bad for him at the end of the movie. Like, he's supposed to be expendable.
Okay, here's the thing, though. Deadshot is a character that survives throughout the Ostrander series, and he is one of the only guys who managed to carry over into the New 52 version as well. When the character was first being used by Ostrander, the whole point was that he was on these suicide missions because he wanted to die. He was tired of the life he'd been living, and he wasn't willing to shoot himself in the head, but he was willing to put himself into situations to get himself killed. He had a death wish. The way they managed to course correct the character so so that he didn't seem like he was, well, I mean, I don't think they really needed to do this, but they gave Deadshot a miniseries in the early 2000s. I think it was by Christos Gage. And they revealed that he didn't know that he had an illegitimate daughter. And so that changed the character's motivation from, I want to die to, I want to be, something beneficial to my daughter while still being, a killer who works for the government. So in that respect, the movie had fidelity to the character. I really didn't have a problem. We're just going to go ahead and do some character stuff here. I think that Will Smith was probably one of the best parts of this movie. I like that he was the lead character. I like that he looked pretty good in the suit. He was entertaining.
Wait. Do you mean for the 2 minutes that he put on the mask for no apparent reason, but to take it right back off again?
I suspect that he did that because they had some reshoots to do that he wasn't involved with, and it was a way for them to just have a stuntman run.
No. I think what it is when you pay someone a ton of fucking money, you want their face plastered on the screen. No, fuck the character. Well, let's put Will Smith on there.
They do the same thing with Iron Man, so I can't knock him for that.
Yeah. Although I wish they'd done more stunt work where they had some other guy running around in the mask so that he had a reason for having a mask in the first place.
Yeah, I know. The mask made no sense to me. He kills the informant and then puts the mask on and then runs. And I was like, that made no sense to me.
Well, and another thing that bugs me about that too is that whole, just referencing that's a Bronze Tiger thing. So I like Bronze Tiger a hell of a lot more than I like Deadshot. So I really don't like them stealing from that character. But setting that aside, It's not that Will Smith was particularly good at playing Floyd Lawton from the comics. It's just that in a bunch of kind of bad performances and in a really bad movie, just having Will Smith in the movie was like, well, this makes it better. And I'm not a big Will Smith fan, but I have to admit that he made the movie more bearable. It's like it was just a typical Will Smith performance, but it shows this guy's a movie star and this guy can carry a bad movie. And when I think about the star power that Will Smith brings versus Ben Affleck, at least Will Smith has more of that pizzazz. He's closer to being the Robert Downey Jr. of this.
But when you saw him on screen, did you see the Deadshot character, or did you see Will Smith playing a character?
Will Smith in a costume.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not definitely 100%. I get that. He's not playing that character. He's being Will Smith and bringing his particular brand of entertainment to the screen.
His Big Willie style.
Exactly. Good drop there. I respect.
Yeah, I guess he was getting jiggy with it. You all, huh? You all, huh? In the wild west, you guys, huh? Maybe he was.
That's a bit of a reach.
He had me shaking in my boots like Muhammad Ali.
His parents just don't understand.
Yeah, Deadshot was West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the shooting range is where he's
Suicide Squad are up or no good, yeah.
That's a good one there, man. I like that one.
I started making trouble in my neighborhood.
Dude, he was in trouble in the neighborhood. Probably killing people.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I guess if you look at it like, hey, Will Smith is trapped in this shitty movie, just like we're all trapped watching this shitty movie, then it probably does make it a little bit better. I looked at it as just like, wow, he's just playing Mike Lowry from Bad Boys, or he's just the same guy. If I think that he's literally every day going onto these shoots and he hates Jared Leto and he thinks the movie sucks and he knows they're going to do all these reshoots, and so then his exasperation with having to be there with all those clowns, forced as in he's forced to make this movie because he cashed a paycheck. And I look at it that way, maybe the movie's a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think that's all true.
Like he's actually frustrated that he's being talked down to by who was the character? What was the Flag? Jack Flag?
Rick Flag.
Oh yeah,
Rick Flag. Yeah. He's just upset that he's actually there shooting a movie, not acting with a guy. Maybe that does put a different spin on it. I kind of laugh and enjoy it.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, Frank.
Yeah.
Did they completely change the Rick Flag character?
Actually, this is what I was going to say. Is like we were saying, Will Smith is just sitting there playing Will Smith, and I think all of that psychology that you were just talking about, that came into him doing this paycheck gig, absolutely he did After Earth, and it's like, fuck, now I got to go do the Suicide Squad. I think that Joel Kinnaman, because he was the guy who played RoboCop, right?
I believe so.
I think that he was acting, like he was just acting as best as he could, and nobody said that Joel Kinnaman is any kind of great actor, but I actually think that of all the characters, he had the greatest fidelity to Rick Flag as presented in the comic. Rick Flag was always a stick up his butt, soldier, jerk, loyal to his unit, but at the same time he knows there are a bunch of criminals and he knows he can't trust them and they'll just as likely stick a knife in his back. So he kind of hates them, but it's part of his job to make sure they're on point and that they're not, getting into trouble and they're not getting themselves killed because that'll compromise the mission. So, and he's always been a guy too where he's always got some kind of psychological stuff where in this movie he's hung up on June Moon. In the comics he was hung up on a woman that was their medic who turned out to be one of the manhunters Manhunter cult agents. So he's always compromised in that way. So I actually, of all the performances, well, not of all the performances, but I think that his was one of the better performances because I saw the character of the comics in the movie, and I do think that was him trying to act to that character and actually put the effort into it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool, but guess what? Did you for 1 minute buy this love story with him and the Enchantress, and that he's his motivation to rescue his lost love? Like the movie didn't need. I don't think it needed any of that.
Yeah, well, again,
am I wrong?
I think it speaks to
would forget about it.
I think it speaks to the character from the comics, but I also think it was a contrivance of the movie. I was willing to buy into it only because that was Rick Flag to my mind, and that suited that character. But the Enchantress was a terrible character in this movie. Cara Delevingne, you know, I know that she's done some other movies, and that's good because if you were basing her as a model actress on this one movie, nobody would ever hire her again. She's definitely going to be toxic to film after this. I actually thought that the Enchantress character as presented earlier in the movie, where she was all like kind of tribal or whatever, I thought that looked kind of okay. You know, the powers looked okay.
It didn't look too bad.
But
you're right.
But then when she becomes fucking Gozer and she does that fucking weird ass dance that she's doing, she looks like she's like Satanica Demonica from Dusk Till Dawn is played by Betty White trying to seduce Wilford Brimley. You know, her dance looked like her dance looked like early onset Parkinson's. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. That was so terrible looking, and it was so like obviously CGI crap that like everybody, obviously nobody was physically in a space there. Oh my god, she was terrible. And you're right, as a device, awful. And I think it really undermines the whole concept because the whole point is this is supposed to be a team proving that the Task Force X can be utilized by the government, can successfully do the Black Ops missions that we can't have superheroes doing, that we don't have soldiers could perform. And then the first thing that happens is one of our people goes rogue and destroys an entire city full of people, which nobody talks about. Everybody in that city's fucking dead. And I don't remember what city that was, but when you kill an entire city,
wasn't it like I can't remember. Never go ahead.
Yeah, you're done. It's over with. No more Suicide Squad. No more Task Force X. You've already negated any potential for these characters to be used again by having an entire city destroyed by one of your agents. So it was just an enormous misstep. It's one of those things that it takes 5 seconds to think your way through and go, hey, that's a bad idea. And it's the same fucking thing they did with Man of Steel. Why haven't they learned their lesson? Don't kill entire cities full of people and then expect to get mileage out of that without anybody complaining.
Well, my understanding was the director only had 6 weeks to write this script.
But
and I just don't see someone
point of the movie,
in
though,
6 weeks. Huh?
This is a key point of the movie, though. You can't. The entire movie is based on the premise of one of these guys going rogue and killing an entire city. I mean, somebody should have caught that.
I don't think they flushed out the story. I really feel like he wrote it once. They read over it a few times. They're like, we'll go with this, and then really flush it out. Like something like that. You're right. They should have caught it right off the bat. It didn't work out last time. What makes you think it's going to work this time? Even though this is the Squad, I would expect to be killing a lot of people.
Well, yeah, but that's
like I expected this to be a hard R with them killing people left and right.
It should have absolutely been an R-rated movie. It was a huge mistake to make this PG-13. These guys are smaller scale. They should have something. They should be going after nukes and stopping the nukes from ever exploding. And they should be killing a whole bunch of people and being awful people while doing it. But you don't actually fucking blow up the nuke. I think that Ayers, I don't buy him being a superhero fan, especially because this movie looks like he was watching like one superhero movie a day and then writing some of the script, because he took so many cliches and so many discarded elements from old superhero movies that we've already moved past and regurgitated them here. I don't feel like he has the feel for the comics. He has the feel for comic book movies that are from a bygone era at this point, because we've evolved past this kind of shitty setup.
Again, 6 weeks to write. Don't think they really put a lot of thought into it.
But literally, they could have watched.
I don't buy that this movie was rushed that much. I just don't. I don't.
Really?
I'd seen too much of this movie for too long. This movie had been hyped for too long. There is no way it was rushed. That's like whenever I hear Star Wars was rushed and parts of it were rushed. I'm like, how? How is that possible? That it makes it even shittier if you have to tell me, like, as a studio, just as an umbrella over your entire movie universe, the fact that you had any part of this movie had to be rushed makes you look even worse and more incompetent. Not like Deadpool overload, but I was in Suicide Squad overload. All the stupid, did you hear about Jared Leto this time? And like, I've been hearing about this forever. How the fuck was this shit rushed? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh,
but why are they trying to catch up to Marvel, though? That's what I don't get.
I just said, because they don't have the tentpoles anymore. They don't have the Hobbit movies anymore. They don't have the Harry Potter movies anymore.
Yeah, they broke.
They're breaking down, and they have new management, so they got something to prove. So there's a whole bunch of reasons to light a fire under these movies. It's just that the wrong people are making the wrong decisions. They're doing it in a hurry besides, and it's clusterfuck.
Now, let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this earlier. Do you think let's say this movie next weekend just dropped dramatically in terms
it already dropped over the weekend, dude. dude. It had something like a 38 to 40 some odd % drop from Friday, Saturday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Really?
So already
it was the largest drop from a Saturday to a Sunday, I think, ever, percentage-wise.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's absolutely going to do a Batman v Superman. Yeah, it's going to, next weekend, it's going to be in real trouble.
So, okay, so we still have Wonder Woman in the can, so that's coming out. But do you think because this movie does so bad that maybe Aquaman doesn't get made? Maybe the Cyborg movie doesn't get made?
Too late.
Yeah, I think it's too late. Cyborg maybe, because they don't even have a director on that yet, from what I understand. But Aquaman's in pre-production, I think, or at least in script phase, something like that. And they've got a director that's commercially bankable on that one. So I think that one gets made. Obviously, Justice League's getting made. After that, though, I'm just not sure, because like I said, they're looking at. I think if Justice League falters, or maybe even if Wonder Woman falters, I think they're going to retrench. They're already actively working on a Superman sequel now.
Yeah, I think I heard something about that today.
You knew that they were going to go back to Batman after Justice League was done and do a Batman solo movie before they go back to Justice League again. So I think their worst case scenario is that they're just going to retrench and go back and try to fix Batman and Superman and make them work and then try to rebuild from there.
God, dude, if Wonder Woman bombs, what are they going to do?
And the problem too is Wonder Woman was shot before Batman vs Superman came out. They basically were wrapping up that movie as the Batman v Superman was coming out. So unless they're going to go back and do reshoots, that better already be a pretty good movie. Or worse yet, they might go and do reshoots and fuck up what might be a good movie already.
Do you think so? Because so this movie's already dropped in terms of ticket sales.
Yep.
Like dramatically.
Over the weekend.
So does that hurt Wonder Woman? Do they go back and start tinkering with Wonder Woman now?
That's a good question. We don't have an answer to it yet, though. I think it's interesting that they made a point of mentioning they were going back and fixing Superman the same weekend as Suicide Squad's faltering. It's funny that they happen to have that news story right here on a Monday. Oh, hey guys, Superman isn't going to be so dead after all. We're already working on another sequel. Do they have a director? I didn't see any mention of any director, screenwriters, anything like that. All they're saying is, don't worry guys, still got Superman. We're going to go back and do Superman again. I think that they threw that out there for a reason. I think they know that the pooch is screwed again.
I think the only way they do reshoots with Wonder Woman is if they don't think it'll make it into China. Since Suicide Squad may not make it to China.
It's definitely not. It's like I said, it's too violent, and honestly, it's too diverse. I think based on what we've heard, diverse.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that's problematic. Is obviously I'm a big booster for more minorities in superhero movies, in all movies, really.
And we appreciate you for that, Frank.
Yeah, thanks, man. You're doing a public service.
And
doing the Lord's work.
And so, but that's a two-edged sword. It's like, great, they're going to have Suicide Squad come out, and they're going to have a diverse cast in this movie. And so what happens? Well, for starters, they're all criminals. They're all supervillains. And for the most part, they're all really fucking gross stereotypes. And they're all written and directed by a white dude. So it's like, that's one of the reasons why they don't have diversity in the movies, is because they don't have diversity behind the camera. They don't have people who know how to write people that aren't white people. And then you end up with shit like Killer Croc's, like, can I get BET in my cell? And it's like, oh my fucking God.
Wait. You don't think El Diablo was a stereotype character, do you?
Oh, please, Mr. Fixit, tell us how you liked El Diablo.
When he turned into a fire Aztec god, I felt so represented in the movie after that. I wanted to go out there and literally turn into a fire Aztec god as well, because that just speaks volume to me. I thought that was lame as shit, but Fryholt made a very good point to me. He's talking about how, because people keep defending the movie about the flashback. Oh, the flashbacks flesh out the characters. And it felt weird to me that we did all the flashbacks in the beginning of the movie, and Diablo gets this flashback in the middle of the movie. And I love when you told me that. Remember back in the theater where his wife throws that box of cash and guns?
Oh my God.
And you're like, what did you expect him to do as a career? Like, really? He's not working at a bank.
Well,
he's
what I thought
not selling mortgages.
What I thought was funny about that scene is that he's in like a polo and like,
oh yeah, and chinos,
pleated Dockers with a skull tattooed on his face.
On his face.
And then she's like, not in this house, essay. And she throws a box full of guns and money. And I'm like, this dude has a skull tattooed on his face. I don't even like what the polo is. It like his glasses for Clark Kent? Like he puts a polo on and nobody can see the skull tattooed on his face, and he can go and have a normal job. When you married the guy with the skull tattooed on his face, you bought into this lifestyle.
Oh, and then she's like, we'll kick it later. I'm like, oh, don't do that.
She says, we'll kick it later. And I'm like, what? Like, this can't be for real. So I was glad that when we walked out, you mentioned, you're like, I think I'm offended.
I felt like a big middle finger to me on Diablo. And then of course he dies. We all knew Slipknot was gonna die because he didn't get the cool intro, so he was dead.
So fucked up because Slipknot was in the original Suicide Squad. He was a Firestorm villain. It was kind of a major. They do have like his main moment from the comics, the Suicide Squad comics, in the movie where he gets tricked into detonating his explosive by Captain Boomerang. But the fact is, this dude showed up and 30 seconds later his head got blown off, and we all knew he was fucking doomed immediately. So it's like this guy existed for that one fucking moment, and they didn't even try to sell you on it otherwise. I don't know if this guy had a story that ended up on the cutting room floor, but I got relatives that are Native American, and if you thought your representation was bad, at least your head didn't blow off in 60 fucking seconds. At least your guy had a story.
The First Nations in Canada are going to be so upset at this movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too, ironically, the job that El Diablo has is he's one of the Disney mascots at Disney World. So that's how he was able to get away with the skull face.
Oh, for real?
No.
See, no, dude. If that was true, that'd be freaking awesome. Wouldn't that be awesome if he was actually like Mickey Mouse or whatever the whole time?
You mean Jay Hernandez? Oh, Jay, you've fallen so far.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, I would much rather this movie had featured his character from Planet Terror than the El Diablo character. Especially, he was cool with the knives and stuff, and he was like had the cool background and stuff. And this movie is like, you couldn't be more of a fucking stereotype. And what got me too is when they revealed, because they didn't tell you much of his backstory, they kept teasing his backstory, they would finally tell you, it's like, oh wait, this is the only guy that we know for a fact has done really bad shit, like shit you can never walk back. And gee, it's funny, he's the one who dies. I wonder how that happened, because I guess he wasn't as toyetic as the other villains with a heart of gold. So it's just so cynical.
But he's the one that had the bad background and then redeemed himself.
Yeah.
Right, but they still had to kill him because he killed children.
To me, what pissed me off was he killed his family, and they hung around for what? Maybe a couple hours, and he was already, I gotta defend my family. I'm like, motherfucker, these people are not your family. To me, the Suicide Squad are supposed to be out for themselves. Like, they're doing this to get time off their life sentences. They're not doing this because they're bonding together and it's a new family and we're all gonna hang out, and we're just like, I was like, motherfucker, please. Like, oh, that pissed me off.
See, here's
like,
the thing.
I could see if he did it for a selfish reason, but don't try to redeem him like, oh, you're my family. Yes, I got this. I was like, oh.
See, here's the thing. One of the big selling points with Fast and the Furious is that they're a family. They always want to tell you, we're family. Have a cerveza. We're family.
Well, yeah, but at least that one fucking Vin Diesel will beat your ass if you get out of line. Like, you're not going with family, so he'll beat your ass. So I mean, they're kind of
right.
But
that's
to that.
The thing about the Fast and Furious movies, though, is they sell it because throughout every one of those movies, they're reinforcing that notion. We're not just criminals. Yeah. We're not just doing this for kicks. We're a family. This is the way that we can make our family have wealth and have opportunities. We got to do this dark shit, but we're still good people. We still love each other, and we're only going to take the shit so far. So they make a point throughout their movies of selling that shit. And then you look at Guardians. Guardians kind of comes from a similar place where these are these disparate characters. They're criminals. They all find themselves in this one situation, and they start to bond over it. But again, Guardians spends the entire movie showing that these are misfits that are finally seeing, that they've got someplace that they can belong with one another. But as you said, this movie takes place over a span, because I mean, literally, as soon as these guys are brought together, like, okay, now we're going to go on the mission. So these guys don't know each other for, like you said, hours at most. So the fact that he does that, it's obvious that what they're trying to do is reference the emotional impact that movies like Fast and Furious and Guardians had, and the connection the audience had to them because of this family that you make atmosphere. But they didn't put the time into, like everything else in the movie, they didn't build that up in the movie itself. And they've showed with Guardians you could if you made that an effort, but it was obviously tacked on probably after the fact. It's probably part of the reshoots where they're like, we want to make them more like the Guardians. So it felt like that line was just inserted in there just to help sell that concept.
But let me ask you, because you seem to remember the comics a lot better than I do. Weren't they like selfish more? They never felt like a team?
Absolutely.
They were more like just,
Absolutely correct. Because that's the thing. They were a team of circumstance. Like, here's when you have Harley knows that Joker's coming to help her, and she wants help to get out of the situation, and so she starts working with a Deadshot and Boomerang and some of the other guys to try to figure out how they're going to get loose a flag and get away from the situation, because they're not here to be heroes. And then Harley ultimately betrays them. That was like, okay, well, this is like a Suicide Squad movie. This is cool. And I remember Peter Travers was one of the first reviews I read, because I already had a bad feeling, because Monday came around and I was like, hey, they probably got reviews of Suicide Squad up by now. I'm going to go check that out. And I looked, it's like, wait, there's no reviews yet, and this movie's coming out on Friday. Uh-oh, that means something. Yeah. Hours later, the first reviews start coming out, and it's fucking just swamping it. And one of the first ones was Rolling Stone, and he talks about he was really upset. And I don't think Peter Travers is like a fucking superhero guy. I don't think he's like a comic book guy. He probably didn't read Suicide Squad comics. He probably went in there expecting a cool balls-to-the-wall action movie. He probably was expecting, like, you know, the tagline, Dirty Dozen with supervillains. And so he just railed about how this movie had no fucking ball, and how it wimps out at every fucking turn, and it was so frustrating to watch them, you know, have these villains suddenly become good guys with no reason, with no motivating factors, out of the blue. Shit like, why the fuck didn't Deadshot shoot Harley Quinn in the fucking face when she escapes? There's no reason.
If he cared about his daughter so much,
exactly,
he would have done it.
He just wanted that piece of ass. I mean, give me something, right?
Well, see, and that's the funny thing. Like, I think I've told you before. Well, go ahead and finish your part, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the whole thing is all the other guys are like, yeah, good call, man. Good, you know, stick it to the man. It's like, they would be pissed off too, because you just left them behind, and these are fucking murderers and shit. They'd be like, why the fuck didn't you cap her ass? They're trying to fake these people as a family, and it's not that kind of movie. The movie's supposed to be low down and nasty. This isn't a movie where you love these characters. You want to fucking, it's more like a Friday the 13th. You're getting off on seeing these guys get mowed down. They should have had more people die, more shitty characters get killed off. And the fact is that they can't sell toys of Slipknot, you know? Yeah. So they have to have all these guys survive, and they have to have them resonate with the audience. But they're trying to make two movies at once, and they're at cross purposes, and you end up negating both the possible movies they could have made. But what part of Suicide Squad did you not understand? I mean, I was at Target the other day, and I'm looking at Suicide Squad action figures. They even say on the packaging, Suicide Squad. And I know the argument's going to be made that it's like those Breaking Bad action figures. Well, it's like, these are toys for an older audience. But what the fuck are teenagers doing in the toy aisle? That should be at Toys R Us or a Hot Topic or some shit. I don't like that there's a toy called Suicide Squad in the fucking aisle next to the fucking DC superheroes and Marvel superheroes. That's some fucking bullshit.
That's what I was interjecting. There's like fucking Captain Boomerang and Harley Quinn and Hot Pants toy in the children's aisle.
Absolutely. I didn't see Harley Quinn, I don't think. I think Katana and Deadshot, and they've got Suicide Squad with the goofy neon logo thing on it at fucking Target and Walmart and shit.
Holy hell.
Now, let me ask you this. I was confused by Katana because I thought that was Kabuki, David Mack's comic.
It would have been a better character, I expect.
I thought that's who it was, and I'm like, wow, they brought her into the books? That's kind of different. Hey, and then I found out,
Why was she in this movie?
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, let me break this down. The Suicide Squad in the comics, at least in the 80s books, because I didn't read the bullshit in recent years, you can't just have supervillains running around without some kind of handlers. So the squad was always made up of not only supervillains, but also some, like, you know, minor super type heroes like Bronze Tiger and Vixen that are helping Rick Flag to make sure these guys don't get out of line. The reason why it's Katana in this movie is because DC's gone through their library of characters, and they realize they've got a really lame selection of non-white characters. And so there are certain people that are being built up in various toy lines. So Bumblebee, who is an extremely minor Teen Titans affiliated character, who briefly was in the Doom Patrol as well. Well, they've got this DC superhero girls line out now, and they've got Bumblebee action figures because she's one of the only black heroines that DC has. And likewise, Katana is like their only Asian that anybody has ever heard of. Katana was created in the early 80s to be a member of Batman and the Outsiders, and it's exactly like what they do in the movie, except that she spoke English. You know, she was Japanese, but she could speak English. But they're sticking her in this movie, I expect, because then they can help to boost the sales and the visibility of Katana's action figures in the DC superhero girls line. But she never had anything to do with the Suicide Squad before they started making this movie.
Okay. Did you notice that when Deadshot had a chance to shoot Harley Quinn and didn't, even what's her name again? Katana. Even she was like, good for you, man. And I was like, did they forget that she's on the government side?
Yeah, I mean, she wanted to kill them right off the bat.
Like, she was like with the rest of the group, like, good for you. And I'm like, what? They totally, like, is anybody paying attention in this film? Has anybody made, like, oh my God.
Honestly, and here's my theory too. I don't think she's in the script. I think
that's what I'm saying. It seems like they just put her out there. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what she was actually, I don't get it.
I literally think the reason why she doesn't speak English is that way they didn't have to write dialogue for her. And Ayers is like, okay, she can be in the squad, but I don't have time to write for her. So hopefully maybe, Karen Fukuhara knows Japanese and she just like made up her own little lines. I don't know. For all I know, she wasn't even speaking Japanese. So I think that's what that's about.
So wow. I want to say, so we already kind of mentioned Killer Croc was, what the hell was he in the movie for? I don't understand what, like Captain Boomerang? The Captain Boomerang had like 3 lines in the whole movie. Like, I don't know. How did you have a whole team full of people in a 2-hour and 10-minute long movie? And I don't remember what any of these people said other than obviously the BET comment, right? What did Captain Boomerang do in this whole movie? What did Katana do? I don't know what they did.
Dude,
I think Captain America was there for comic relief.
Yeah, right. exactly. Boomerang was the guy who threw the boomerang with the camera on it so they could look ahead.
Oh, yeah. That's the only time he used the boomerang? Because the rest of the time he was stabbing people with it, like a knife, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you have a boomerang, do boomerang. So the only thing he did was fight Katana. You know, I guess since they both had bladed weapons, it gave him an excuse to have a blade fight. But yeah, I mean, he's a major part of the original Suicide Squad. I think he was probably there to have the moment where he talks Slipknot into getting blown up. And then they had the stupid pink unicorn thing. That was all, I think, designed to have their Rocket Raccoon. Honestly, I think he was supposed to be their jokey guy, and they realized that the jokes weren't working when they tested it with audiences because virtually none of the jokes in this movie did work. And that's why I think Will Smith got pretty much all the humorous moments, with a few exceptions, because he was the only guy who could at least has the talent to land jokes that weren't even good. And he probably made shit up. He's known for ad-libbing. That's one of the reasons why you get Will Smith, is because he can be in a bad movie. People said that Men in Black was a bad movie until he came in and started ad-libbing. All the good jokes in Men in Black were made up on the spot when he was filming. So yeah, I think that he got cut because they didn't write anything good for him, and Jai Courtney isn't a comedian.
Woof.
And then with Killer Croc, I think what it was is that King Shark has been a part of the New 52 Suicide Squad, and he's been a somewhat visible character, and they didn't want to spend the money on a CGI character, and the director wasn't comfortable with working with a pure CGI character, so they switched it to Killer Croc because they could do him practical.
What a waste of Killer Croc.
Oh man, yeah, because he's just this doofus who's hanging around in the background for most of the movie, and then he has this one moment where he goes underwater, and what the hell was that ass wiggle thing he did when he was launching himself? That was
He was trying to do a crocodile crawl, I think.
Yeah.
Crawls down like it, but it just looked like everybody laughed in the theater, and I'm like, oh, that's not what they were going for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that was an intentional laugh, but it was one of the only ones that did work, because you stand on two legs. Why don't you walk into the water? It just
Hey,
what bothered me was he had a massive head, but he was the same size as Deadshot. Like he wasn't big.
They tried to make him look big sometimes, but whenever he was standing next to everybody, he was the same size, if not shorter than everybody else. It was very jarring.
And that bothered me because I've read a lot of stuff with Killer Croc. I've watched Batman animation. He's big. He's he's about 6'7", no, not even like 7-8 feet long, tall. He's a big guy. And in this movie, he was just a guy with bad skin condition.
Yeah. Right? Like why couldn't you just hired a professional wrestler? Like I don't understand. What if that wasn't perfectly fit for a Batista, where he doesn't even have to freaking talk? You just put makeup on. You just get a giant dude with makeup, and they couldn't do that. I don't understand what the fuck was going on. Man, I'm getting more and more like this movie as we talk about it is getting worse and worse. Like I just don't understand.
Dude, watch it a second time.
What was going through their minds? I don't.
You watch it a second time, you will be. I was infuriated, dude. By the second time, I was so pissed.
I can't get infuriated because I just don't care about any of these characters.
I actually did. I wanted DC to have a hit.
You do. And
I wanted DC to have a hit so that they'll make more good movies. I didn't want a horrible, mediocre movie to come out and just prove again that they didn't know what they were doing. I wanted them to have a hit so then everyone could say, Marvel has great movies. Guess what? DC has some good movies, and they got more properties. Hey, let's do a demon movie with Etrigan, and I want that to happen, but it's not going to happen if you keep making these shitty, mediocre movies, and then the DC fans swear up and down they're the greatest thing. And I'm like, no, you got to call them out, man. You got to call them out so that the next time around they try harder or they do something different. Don't reward them for making mediocre, shitty movies.
Hashtag bad movies matter.
Hashtag bad. Thank you, man. That was my little Frank moment there on the soapbox. I just want to say something real quick. I actually did like Boomerang because he didn't speak, but at least he was entertaining. What? He felt to me like Boomerang from the comic, because Killer Croc wasn't Killer Croc. I don't know who Katana is. He was the only character that felt normal to me. Now, I wanted to ask you this real quick, Frank. Now, Boomerang, was he a cokehead in the comics?
No, not to my recollection. If that happened, it would have happened post Jeff Johns or something.
Yeah, I was going to say Jeff Johns did that, right?
No, Jeff Johns made Mirror Master a cokehead.
But him and Boomerang hung out a lot.
Like I said, I read some of the Jeff Johns stuff. I couldn't tell you definitively. I wasn't aware of that if that was the case.
Because I think that would have been kind of cool where, like, one's a drug addict, so he's a druggie, so he's unpredictable.
You can't sell action figures of a cokehead.
Yeah.
You can sell action figures of a guy who's a bank robber and possibly a murderer, but not of a cokehead.
No. Okay. So
but I just want to say, real quick, you remember I wanted to see this movie for Killer Croc. I wanted to see a good representation of the characters. One of the reasons why I went in there as a fan, and this guy's nothing. There's nothing there. So
I read a review where they said that Harley Quinn's ass got more screen time than Killer Croc did in the entire film.
Look, but dude, what ass? Dude, that's a negative ass.
She does not have a voluptuous.
No, I'm sorry, dude. Some people were trying to tell me, dude, did you see that ass? I'm like, dude, she has no ass. It's a negative ass. I don't get that.
She just kind of had a wedgie. They had a wedgie to try and look like. She's very attractive though.
She had butt cleavage is what it was. She could see the butt cliff, but that's she didn't. It wasn't like here's the thing. I got assigned seating, and I got the near. I wanted to be in the middle aisle, so that meant I was much closer closer to the screen than I really wanted to be. And so thankfully I was in a good theater where I could lean back and cushion my head and stuff. But that ass was really in full view. And unfortunately to the left of me were a group of teenage boys. And I know that they were enjoying seeing that, and it was just totally fucking skeeving me out. It just bothered me that I'm stuck in a superhero movie with these kids, obviously with their little boy boners. And I'm just like, I don't need that in my movie. And I know what it was is they were trying to make it as R-ish as they could get away with and still be PG-13. Those little boys were the audience they were playing to, but it totally grosses me out as an adult and makes me not want to spend my money to see the movie again.
Yeah, I could see how that's a little creepy.
Yeah, I did not find her sexy at all. She's just not my type. I like my women with curves, and the only thing that had curves was that damn baseball bat she was walking around with. So,
I mean, she's good looking.
She's pretty.
Fine.
She's not my type either.
I didn't find the character hot. But like when she's doing the pole dancing and stuff, yeah, dude, she's attractive.
I thought that was annoying. Dude. Like,
oh, I hated the pole dance. Ugh.
So when I went to the theater with some friends, a friend of mine told me, and he made a very good point. When Joker finally came out, he was like a music executive, or like he was ready to sell you his mixtape out of the trunk of his car, and he was dressed more like a pimp, and Harley Quinn was more like a hoe and less like a villain, if that made sense. Like, she just, I don't know.
Well, I don't really want to talk about how Joker looked, because I think we've already gone down. Since we've seen how Joker looked for forever, we know he looks like the thugged out gangbanger with the gold grill and everything. We know that. We don't need, or the platinum grill and the tattoos. I'm over all that.
Well, one thing that he did mention recently, though, is he said that he'd based part of his performance on David Bowie. And looking at
what part?
Pardon?
Yeah, that Jared Leto has been saying that one of his influences on his interpretation of the Joker was David Bowie.
Oh, my God.
Right. And so the first thing everybody's saying is like, don't bring David Bowie to this. Yeah, but I can see it. And because I've always, David Bowie has always been one of the guys that I thought would have been a great Joker. Definitely had the look and the feel. And I can definitely see the thin white Duke in the way he dressed and obviously his body type, the way he had his hair done. But in terms of the actual performance, you couldn't find a more repellent character than Jared Leto's Joker, and a less couth, less intriguing character versus the fascinating figure that was David Bowie.
Yeah, I thought the first, and it seemed like, now, from what I understand, they cut tons of him out of the movie.
Yeah, well, what the main thing I heard was that it tested poorly because he was so abusive to Harley. And so, like, how they did those horrible flashbacks to her origin sequence with the dumb, like, weird digital, transitions, which we were joking about previously. And I think what it was is that's where they were cutting out all the shit where he was being violently abusive toward her. Just like he was the rest of his cast with his fucked up gifts and shit.
But dude, she has Stockholm syndrome, dude. That's the whole point. He beats her up and she gets off on it.
Yeah, if you're not ready, I guess that goes back to what you were saying, Frank, about how they were like, they just kept pussing out over and over again. Well, hey, if you're gonna have Harley Quinn and you're gonna have Joker, you can't half-ass it. Otherwise, it's gonna be garbage. Otherwise, you need to find other characters to use, right?
Yeah. Well, and part of her arc too is that she starts out as a hench person and somebody who's utterly, disastrously devoted to this man. But ultimately, she breaks free. Even in the cartoons, she started that relationship with Poison Ivy, and she started getting further and further away from the Joker. And that's part of what turned her into a star, as she got out of that abusive relationship and became a heroine, or an anti-heroine, however you want to put it, a starring character all on her own. The Joker doesn't have a series, but Harley Quinn has like 2 or 3 at this point. So you have to show her trajectory. And the thing is, though, is in the comics, in the animated show, she was never some chick who's rolling around on a fucking pole. For what reason, I have no fucking clue. And then she spends this entire movie as a cock tease. It was grossing me out, and it's not that there was anything wrong with her performance, but why do they keep putting her in these situations that are just skeevy and not appropriate for somebody that you're going to want to build into a heroine who's going to carry her own movies? These kids can get on the fucking internet and get actual porn these days. Why did she'd be very prudery, she'd be a very attractive woman no matter how you dressed her. Why do they have to go to all these gross places with her?
Right, I mean, she looked like a hooker.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And the whole thing,
Joker pimped her out. He was pimping her out to Common.
Yeah,
in the beginning.
Well, no, he literally pimped her out to Common, which that whole scene was, what the fuck is going on? Like, I didn't understand. I was like squinting at the screen, like, where are they going with this?
Well, I think the intention is that Common called her a bitch, and so the Joker started fucking with him before he was going to kill him, and both he and Harley knew that they were going to kill him. But the problem is it played too long, and we all knew where it was going, but it was just really uncomfortable, and they shouldn't have had that scene in the first place. Also, one thing, it was depressing for me because I didn't quite recognize him when he showed up on screen. He's like, I've seen that guy somewhere, I can't quite place because of the tattoos and stuff. And then during the closing credits, I saw Common's name. I was like, who the fuck did Common play? And I finally saw him in the credits, like, oh man. Common was going to play Green Lantern John Stewart in the Justice League Mortal movie if it had gotten filmed in 2007 before all the issues with the Australian Film Board and stuff. So this guy was going to be one of the stars of the DC universe, and now he's the Michael Jai White role from The Dark Knight. right. He's the black a gangster who the white gangster gets to kill to show how badass he is. And the fact that they even do that in 2 movies, it's another disturbing element of this movie when it comes to race.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this movie, you have, I'm glad you've got Will Smith in there, and I'm glad that he's, the main character and stuff, but then you have all these other supporting characters that do not come off looking well at all.
Well, and so, there was such a big hubbub made of both of Harley Quinn's, what is her name again? Margot?
Robbie, I think, or Robbie.
Yeah, something like that.
So her performance was supposed to just be, oh my god, she just takes over the screen. And the other one was Leto's, who was so,
Yeah, they were hyping the shit out of Leto. Oh, yeah. Man.
Well, the problem is that, and I guess you can say, well, Harley Quinn's crazy, she's schizophrenic, and that's why, but the ridiculous accent, that came and went throughout this movie, right?
Yeah.
Is it supposed to come and go like that?
Oh, you thinking like she's got MPD?
Puddin', hey boss, what's up, Puddin'? I thought she talked that way all the time in the cartoons.
What was it? Who was it who did the voice on the cartoons, Vic?
Oh man, you got me on that one, dude. I'm not sure.
I think that Margot Robbie was trying to channel that voice. I think she did the best job she could to capture that version of Harley Quinn, but she wasn't consistent with it, and I didn't find it. I thought she was fine. She didn't bother me, and I'm not enough of a Harley Quinn fan to really care if the accent's coming and going. It's just she's not like magnetizing or anything. I think there's a lot of people that just found her really, really, really hot in The Wolf of Wall Street and are giving her a little bit of a free pass. I thought she was okay, but the character is so gross. The way that she's written is so gross. The way she's dressed. So I have to overcome a lot to even give her any sort of acclaim because, and with Leto too, there's just not enough there to really single her out for anything
I hate
positive.
when people keep trying to tell me like, oh, his Joker was amazing. I'm like,
well, hold on, I'm not ready to talk about it yet. So it was Arlene Sorkin, by the way, was the voice.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
So here's the deal. So people are talking about how they need to get her own movie, right?
Oh,
so
no, before this came out, studio executives actually took her into a meeting and talked to her about doing a spin-off movie.
Right.
And they credited her with coming up with the idea of, I want to do an all-female character movie. And so they got really excited about the idea of bringing up all these female characters around Harley Quinn as the lead.
Dude, look, she was definitely not the worst part of this movie, but I could not take her for 2 hours and 15 minutes as the star. At least this movie gave us some breaks from her. I don't think that would play well for an entire movie. I'm sorry. I don't think so. I think that's just, she's way too annoying. Way, way, way too annoying.
Well, see, the movie comes out though, and you're going to have Amanda Waller send Katana and Harley Quinn on a mission, and there's going to be a cameo by Wonder Woman, and then they're going to get Bumblebee into the universe. How can you get excited for that?
Sounds amazing. Can't wait to see it, Puddin'. Okay, so now we can talk about Joker now. He was really bad, huh?
Yes, dude, horrible. Someone I was with was trying to defend the Joker and talk about how he was amazing, how he was so dark and scary. And I'm like, he was never scary. I never saw him as like a danger. If anything, he was, I don't know. I really hope he was supposed to be the Jason Todd turned into Joker? Like, I would forgive you if you did that, but don't call him Joker if he's not when we were discussing this, I talked about how the Cesar Romero Joker was the joke, the 60s jokey Joker. Nicholson was the gangster Joker, and Heath Ledger was the I just want to watch everything burn Joker, like the sociopath.
Hey, that makes sense. Who's the guy from Seven? John Doe?
Who?
Like, was it John Doe that was in Seven? Who was the killer in Seven?
Kevin Spacey.
Was, Kevin Spacey.
I know, but the character name was it John? Yeah. It was John Doe, right?
No.
Okay,
I think it was John Doe or something like that.
He's one of those kind of guys where he's getting off on all the chaos he's creating, and he's making a statement through his. And violence.
So those were the three Jokers to me. I got that. This guy, I'm telling you, dude, he's a music label maker, whatever. Like, just he's a hip hop artist. He's Lil Wayne Joker. I just didn't see the scary thing about him. He would do that goofy shit where he'd cover his mouth with the smile tattoo. And I'm like, really, dude? Like, you have a tattoo of a smile on your hand, and that's supposed to be like, ooh, creepy. Oh, this guy's fucking crazy. I'm like, you have a character named Diablo who's tattooed head to toe as a skeleton, and Joker has like J and ha ha, and I'm like, dude, no, like, I don't get it.
No, but so his performance was so hyped up, but like I didn't even feel like his performance was consistent. Like I didn't even feel like he was the same crazy in all these different scenes. Like in the beginning, he sounded more. I said he sounded like Ace Ventura in the very beginning of the movie, and then by the end, he was doing almost like mumbling. Like I couldn't understand what he was saying sometimes. I didn't get, like, at least the dude couldn't even be consistent in this totally immersive character development that he went through, and it just seemed like it was just terrible. It was just really, really bad.
Honestly, now that I've heard some of the stuff that came out where like he's upset about all his footage footage being cut out and how if he died, then his footage would be released. I think almost he was trying to outdo Heath Ledger by going, because Heath Ledger, had his little Joker diary, and he was immersed in the character. And I think he was like, well, I'm so crazy. I'm going to send people dead body or a pig corpse, and I'm going to send people rats. Look how crazy I am. I'm becoming the Joker. This is going to stain my soul with the Joker. And
that's totally what it was.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, this was such a lame Joker. He wasn't threatening. I just didn't get it. And his whole plot device was to go after Harley the whole time. Like, that's it.
You are 1000% correct. Jared Leto is the thirstiest motherfucker in Hollywood. This guy, pretty much his entire acting career has been him pulling stunts, trying to do early De Niro, like when he got fat for that movie about the guy who killed John Lennon and shit. This guy is always about the physical transformation and showing what an incredible actor he is and shit. And I'll tell you, I thought he was pretty good in Dallas Buyers Club, playing a somewhat stereotypical trans person. But most of everything else that he's done has not been terribly impressive. And he goes for these stunts because he wants everybody to regard him as some kind of great actor, and most people don't, because honestly, I think that most people can't fucking stand him. And I think that comes through in a lot of these interviews related to Suicide Squad. I don't think anybody wanted to have anything to do with this guy. I think he fucking grossed them out and pissed them off. And I think everybody fucking hates him. And I hate him too. I want to kick his fucking ass, and I know I could, because I got weight on that motherfucker. I don't care if he's got, I don't care if he's fucking the next Bruce Lee. I still think I could take him because he's fucking twig.
Yeah, I think that you would definitely dominate that guy.
Yeah.
Choke slam,
because he's just a little bitty thing. And here's the thing. I have a lot of contempt for the Joker as a character. This is well documented. I think that he's a little fucking weasel. I think that he's very much overrated. And I was not a fan of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, which definitely makes me an outlier. But the fact is, at least Ledger was giving it a performance. He decided who that character was going to be. He committed to it, and he was consistently that character throughout the movie. And I think that the Joker was well written in The Dark Knight. I couldn't get past the voice that he came up with for the character, but it was still an engaging movie. It was still, he was fine in other respects. And again, I don't know if he deserved the Oscar, and I'm sure a lot of it was about the whole posthumous aspect of it. Yeah. But at least it's a performance where I'm not going to be like, that gave that guy an Oscar? Blah. Where Jared Leto, the fact that they were ever talking about this guy just has to have been pure hype. I cannot believe for a second that anybody who shared screen with him was in any way impressed with the bullshit this guy was pulling. It was a fucking wretched performance. He's the worst screen Joker of all time. He's one of the worst superhero movie villains of all time. Even the worst Marvel movie villains, like the fucking Malekith from Thor: The Dark Age or whatever that shit was called. At least that guy. World. Yeah, at least that guy. I was bummed because they didn't make use of the actor.
I love that you didn't know the name of Thor 2. Wasn't it like Thor 2, like A Land Before Time? Or
I don't have that movie in high regard either. But
you remember Thor 2, The Search for Spock? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
No, that was a good one, Mac. That was a good one.
But at least that guy didn't bother me. He was a non-entity. But Joker, I really fucking disliked this guy. I did not enjoy spending time with this guy on my fucking screen, and it made me hate the movie that much more for his presence.
Yeah, and he didn't need to be in the movie. Like, I thought that he was going to end up being, I thought either he was going to be in only flashbacks for her origin, or I thought he was going to be the villain of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Instead, he swoops in and takes her, and then the helicopter crashes, and they literally walk out of the building, and she's there waiting there to, like, chilling with him. I'm like, okay, so what was he in this whole movie for? Like, I don't get it. What was the whole point of the cell phone texting and smuggling the cell phone in and trying to broker the deal with Deadshot? Like, I don't understand what the point of any of that was, because she literally, he rescued her, quote unquote, and then they shot the helicopter down.
Yeah, you could take him out of the movie. Every scene that he's in, you could take out, and it would not affect the narrative at all.
Well, let me ask you real quick. When the helicopter that she's on gets shot, who shot that helicopter?
Right?
It was another helicopter.
Okay, why would another helicopter shoot that helicopter?
Didn't what's her name say? I thought Amanda Waller or whatever said.
No.
They stole the second bird.
No. The first time the helicopter crashes, there's two helicopters, and all of a sudden their helicopter gets hit by gunfire and crashes. That's when Harley Quinn is like, "Oh, what a ride!" And they all get out, and it's the Alpha Team and the Suicide Squad. And I sat there, and I'm like, I thought the Joker had shot it down.
Oh yeah. No, I thank you for bringing that up. I didn't. They were always like dodging gunfire, and I was like, who is shooting at them?
Yeah.
So, I guess it was like the soldiers that were turned into the pimple sphincter monsters or whatever. They had like I guess they could still shoot their guns.
Okay, I was really confused with that.
I'm totally with you. The monsters that were shooting. I don't know what enemy was shooting at them. Right. No, I'm with you.
They just crashed, and I thought that was Joker trying to get her to set up her escape. But I'm like, why would you randomly shoot into a helicopter, not realizing you might actually hit her and kill her?
No, several times in the movie they're dodging gunfire,
and you're not sure what's coming from. from?
The only opponents are the
Oogly Googlies.
Yeah, those dudes.
I just love
The anal fissures or whatever.
I'm grateful to live in the year 2016 where we have seatbelt and airbag technology that would allow 3 helicopters to crash without a single fatality or even injury. I mean, what the fuck? Who crashes 3 helicopters, including one that's fucking spin rolling? And they're, I'm okay! Every time.
What?
Nobody
What?
fucking, even fucking, Amanda Waller's helicopter. I'm glad she was flying it because there was nobody else in there to be injured and no blood. So hey, plus there. She did a great job of landing that after getting shot at because clearly there was nobody else in the helicopter. Oh my God.
Hey, I was going to ask you this, Frank. When I read those comics, I don't remember, but was there military soldiers that would go with the Suicide Squad?
Well, Rick Flag for starters. Typically, they
but would there be a squad of soldiers with them as well?
Not typically. Like I said, again, the handlers were going to be the more altruistic members of the team, like Vixen and Bronze Tiger and Rick Flag.
Because it just made no sense to me. If you have a Suicide Squad who is going in to go die, why would you send in regular troopers with them?
Or more to the point, why would the regular troopers want to go in?
I read that today where it was like, this was supposed to be a movie about the Suicide Squad, but they had constant military support the whole time.
Yeah, I remember when we were first watching, I was thinking, if I remember correctly in the books, the whole point is most of these guys are not supposed to survive. The whole mission is they're going to die.
Right, that's why they send them in on their own. It's because regular troops can't be there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
The only reason why any of these guys have the only reason why any of these guys have a chance of surviving is because they're super powered people. They're metahumans. So you're right, sending in regular people, you're just condemning them to die. Because even if they don't get killed by the opposition, they might get killed by the squad itself.
Okay, so I was kind of that was confusing me when we were watching the movie because I sat in and I was like, I remember reading this comic a long time ago, and if I remember correctly, they never had like military support. The whole bit was some of these people aren't supposed to survive. Like you're supposed to die.
Well, you know what it is? Scott Eastwood isn't going to have an action figure, so they needed some cannon fodder. That's what those fuckers were there for.
Oh, it's so bad.
I mean, and the thing is, they could have gotten a few more silly people in costume and given them a 30-second intro, and then have them get killed.
Just kill them off,
just like they did with Slipknot. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I could live with that. That would have been all right with me.
Oh, and by the way,
if they actually had members of their squad die through the mission instead of like at the very end during the boss battle.
That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought, you lose one in a helicopter crash, you lose one because he tries to run off and his head blows off. You lose another one to the pimple people, then you lose one in the boss battle, whatever. Like that's what I thought was going to happen throughout this. That boom, it hit you like, oh, we just got to attach that guy, and oh my god, they killed him off. It's the Suicide Squad. Oh, I get it. That's why I was just so surprised they basically all survived.
Yeah.
Or all the ones that we spent any time with survived.
Well, and you can team them up too. It's like the shitty origin story for Captain Boomerang where he knocks out the other guy so he can take all the money. Well, have that guy be the Rainbow Raider and they both get caught and they're both in the Suicide Squad and one's pissed off the other one and then Rainbow Raider gets killed.
Right. Like, why can't they have casts together?
Because that means you would have taken longer than 6 weeks to write this fucking movie, to come up with a cool idea like that. I mean, granted,
you literally put the name Rainbow, but you literally put the name Rainbow Raider in the script instead of miscellaneous dude who's with the guy. It's like it really wouldn't have been difficult at all because it wouldn't be the director's problem; it'd be costuming department.
Yeah. Or how about the guy who hired Deadshot to begin with, who was trying to jack around with his money? It could have been something as simple as that. That instead of some mob boss hiring him, it was some other metahuman that was hiring him and kind of did him wrong by not paying him. I mean, it could have been so simple, and just a little bit of, hey, that's the guy that tried to screw Deadshot over in the beginning. They got beef, and then boom, there you go. Now they're on a team together.
The Joker Squad. Those aren't named characters or anything. They're just guys in funny costume. They did that with the Joker Squad. They couldn't do that with the Suicide Squad as well.
That was the weird thing too. For the Suicide Squad to be so dangerous, the only people that killed people were Joker's henchmen when they were going in and gunning people left and right.
Spraying the machine guns. Yeah.
The only people who killed people were the people who weren't on the Suicide Squad, which I thought was weird.
Because they're not making action figures of them either.
True. This movie, the more I think about it, was very poorly thought out.
Yeah, no shit. Well, how about this? How about they spend the first third of the movie building up that one prison guard that's fucking hateful to everybody, and you just keep waiting for him to get nailed, and then it ends with, oh, the Joker's gonna get you, and then you never see him again, and you never see any come up in. What the fuck?
That dude had a ton of screen time.
I mean, that's your fucking stinger. Your second stinger at the end of the movie is, the Joker. How about this? The Joker kills the guy when he's coming in to break out Harley Quinn. You take 10 seconds to have him go, I guess you came back after all. I didn't have to worry about the Joker. And then boom, that's all you had to do, and they didn't even fucking do that.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
God, that guy. Yeah, and I thought he was pretty good at being a slimeball. Actually, I think they invested more in that character and got more for the investment than virtually any of the members of the squad.
Oh.
I mean, at least you were rooting against that guy. He inspired some kind of emotion besides, dismissal.
Do you think they're just saving him to kill him off in a later time?
I don't think saving is an option with this one. I think what you're going to see happen is this will be like the Incredible Hulk, where these guys will pop up here and there in various movies. I don't think you're going to see Suicide Squad 2.
You don't think so?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Wow, I thought they would at least make a second one.
No, they'll put Harley in her own movie. There's not going to be another Suicide Squad. You tell me Will Smith's going to sign up to play Deadshot in another movie?
Yeah, but it'll be a Batman movie.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Okay, so there's this too. They had to already be thinking about getting Jared Leto as the Joker in the Affleck movie, right?
Oh, yeah. The assumption I would think is that you're going to have them fight again. Yeah.
So does that get scrapped?
I think it depends on whether or not the general audience is like Jared Leto. I've heard some mixed response to that. I think he's awful and I never want to see him again, but I don't know if that's true of the entire audience.
I think that's fairly well accepted that he was not good. Why would they cut him? Why would they cut him from so much of the movie if they really intended to use him again? You know what I'm saying?
True.
I think you would have more people willing to see a Harley Quinn movie with her as the villain than a Joker one.
Yeah, but see, I don't think that she's been set up well as a villain.
Yeah, I think they're going to play the anti-hero role, so that doesn't really work either. That's why you have to go back to Deadshot because they burned off the Joker as somebody you don't want to see for a while, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Weird.
Yeah, that's true. Because if you make a Harley Quinn movie, she has to be a villain. She has to kill people. She has to be a sociopath. Like, you can't have her going around saving kittens and trees and shit like that.
No, they can do that, and it's just
why then?
What's
the point?
No, I know, but I mean, they kind of did that in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't, but she really doesn't. That's the thing, though, is she takes a swipe at Batman and she, smashes turd people like everybody else does, but she doesn't actually kill anybody that anybody cares about.
One thing I did notice, apparently, that everybody else apparently noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but when they flash her file, I don't know if it's when Amanda Waller flashes her file up on the screen, it says something about her and Joker killing Robin.
Yeah, I heard about that. It was an Easter egg where she confessed to killing Robin is what it's at.
Right. So it seems to me like they're already trying to connect Batman vs Superman with the Robin costume with the "Joke's on you, Batman" or whatever the hell spray painted on it, and they're trying to connect that to this movie, saying it was Harley and Joker that killed him. So I'm assuming it's those two that are supposed to be in the Batman movie where they explain Robin's death, right? And I just feel like they're already shitting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can't switch the actor for the Joker, right? You can't do that.
Well, it's like you said, you could play a fan theory. They quote unquote killed Jason Todd, but it turns out no, the Joker is Jason Todd, and here's the new guy playing the Joker. So.
Well, I think I said that in our podcast too. That I thought that wouldn't it be weird if I think I was calling my shot. I think that's what I said in our Batman Superman. Or no, it was one of our podcasts. I don't know if we were actually talking about Batman versus Superman, but
the important thing though is
I don't know if it was one of our reviews. I don't think it was one of our reviews. It was pre-movie release.
The important thing is, in terms of the universe they're trying to build, they can still fix the universe. They can come up with ways of countering the issues they've had. But the thing is, there's still movies. It's the analogy you made with Bond. There's no reason why you can't just say, okay, well, we're just going to have a different act. And especially if the performances were bad, I think people are going to accept it. I don't think, I realize that they want to have a Marvel universe, but they could kind of have their cake and eat it too. If something doesn't work, just drop it and come bring something else in. That could be one of the ways in which they're different, is they don't stick with the same actors for movie after movie. They don't have to do that.
I agree. I just think that they probably didn't, in the list of things they thought they were going to have to do for this next Batman movie, recasting Joker was not on that list.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. They can totally do that. Honestly, I think they probably should do it. Although I think Jared Leto could probably play a good Robin. Although seeing him and Ben Affleck
I know, just please don't
weird.
take us down that road. I can't deal with that.
That would be really bizarre.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't. Just make a reference in a movie like off. Oh yeah, that was Jason Todd. He's dead. Show his corpse. I don't know what. Just don't go that deep into it. I can't stand looking at that guy.
Yeah. They're totally going to do that. He's going to be Robin for a whole 2
Actually,
hours.
and the thing is too, is you wipe away all the tat and he goes back to being Angel Face, and then you just
Well, they did that
Robin
in that fucking flashback for her.
Did they? Did they get rid of the tat?
Yeah, where Joker was like normal when she's dreaming of fantasizing about having a normal life.
Oh, that's another thing I fucking hated too. Is they're trying to show these people's fantasies, like their dream existences, and so Harley Quinn is supposed to want a domestic life with a clean cut businessman.
Twins.
And by the way, too, did you notice that in the scene where the knives are surrounding Joker on the ground, there's also two babies
baby
like
clothes.
jumpers. What the fuck was that about?
Because it's edgy, man. They're trying to get in your head, dude.
Yeah. But anyway, why would a character like Harley Quinn desire domesticity as her greatest wish? Why would she be attracted to someone like the Joker if she just wanted him to become like the regular guy that she could have had anyway, because she's a fucking doctor, she's a psychiatrist. She could have gotten that guy if she wanted that guy. And how gross is it to assert that kind of gendered mentality to the characters? Like, oh, she just wants to be a happy mom. That fucking made me kind of angry, just seeing that. It's
really?
like, and it doesn't even make sense.
Shouldn't it have been the two of them are like the king and queen ruling over an entire like Joker-sized despised America. Like that's like, wow, she is seriously her brain damaged, right? Instead, like you said, oh, I just want to be normal. And it's like, what?
Well, and it wasn't it
yeah,
like,
she's like, I want to be normal, Miss J.
And wasn't there like in either like Mad Love or one of the cartoons or something, didn't they actually do something like that? But like the children are playing with guns and they've got stacks of bills all over the place, and it's like this twisted version of that same.
I don't know, man.
Okay, so that works too, because that's crazy.
I could see that,
but that's not what they gave us. They gave us this fucking gross 1950s nuclear family bullshit that diminishes the characters. Like, what the? Oh man, there's so much what the fuck in this movie. Yeah,
doesn't it get worse the more you think about it? Like the more we're talking about it, like when I was talking to Fryho, the more we talked about it, the more I was getting enraged. I'm telling you, it's just like, oh my god, like I sat through this shit twice.
Yeah. Well, the thing with me watching the movie, the main allegory that came to my mind was the movie was like Wile E. Coyote. Is I realized pretty early on that, oh shit, this isn't going to be a good movie, obviously, and I heard the reviews obviously too. But as long as it kept moving and kept blowing shit up and kept pulling stuff out of the Acme novelty library boxes and stuff, they were okay. But then when he goes over the cliff and he's in the middle of the air and he realizes that he's about to fall and then the abyss takes him, this movie's a lot like that. As long as they've got the music and the action and shit, it's like, this is a bad movie, but I enjoy bad movies. I'm a fan of the Resident Evil series, for God's sake, and I'm looking forward to that coming out in January. So I can get past that so long as it just keeps up its momentum. But then eventually the movie does stop and it goes back to that score and things slow down and they start trying to do the character moments and they have the scene in the bar where they're, trading neuroses, and then they have that bullshit where Captain Boomerang leaves and it's like, that's awesome. And then he comes right back in and they do the fucking Guardians of the Galaxy slow walk shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's when you're like, this fucking movie sucks and it's not going to stop sucking. And it got even worse from there, because then you have the final boss battle with that stupid CGI Incubus dude. And then you have that way too long fight sequence between Enchantress and the Suicide Squad and the silhouettes. Even trying to take it as a bad movie that just at least has momentum and just keep going and throwing shit at you so you don't think about it too much. It fails because partway through the movie, it just stops being propulsive and you're just sitting there going, is this over yet? They needed it as ridiculously over edited as the opening section was. They needed to keep that up because it's way too long at over 2 hours. And you just get really sick of the movie and the characters by the time they get to that final boss battle.
I can't believe that this movie is 8 minutes longer than Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, there's so much. It's such a denser movie. Although, I mean, it's not denser. I don't want to make it sound like Guardians of the Galaxy is some space epic, right? I mean, there's not a lot of fat on Guardians of the Galaxy, but I just don't know how this movie isn't twice as long as Suicide Squad. Because like, what happened in Suicide Squad to make it 8 minutes longer than Guardians? You know what I mean? It like defies logic in my brain thinking about what was contained in each film. Like, it's like you're saying me one cup here has a gallon and this other cup over here has 6 ounces and they're both filled to the brim, but the 6 ounces is more. I'm like, how is that? How is this possible? It's making my brain want to explode.
Well, and it got so much less accomplished in that time too.
Yeah, that's what I said, idiot.
Yeah,
Didn't you get my glass analogy,
okay.
Stupid?
Fuck off.
6 ounces of a gallon? Come on.
He just spent like, 4 or 5 minutes explaining this to us, and you're like, yeah,
I was summarizing so I could edit out all that long-winded bullshit. That's all it was.
Oh, my terrible example.
How many characters were in Guardians of the Galaxy?
A whole bunch.
Like at least 5, right?
But they got Thanos, and they got Nebula, and they got like freaking
Ronan the Accuser,
Xandar,
yeah, the
and
Nova
all those
Corps.
dudes. How did we meet all these people? I don't understand. The Collector.
Well, and the thing is too is a lot of the characters from this movie were already introduced to the audience through various animation, whereas the Guardians, for the most part, were completely introduced to the general public through this one movie.
Excellent point. Yeah,
that's right.
The performances I thought were basically terrible across the board, and the one that I thought for sure was going to be good was Amanda Waller, and I thought she was terrible. I mean, she did a bad impersonation of herself in her How to Get Away with Murder show. Like, it was because my wife.
I was about to say Mrs. Mack watches that shit, doesn't she?
Yeah, it was like she was doing a bad impersonation of herself. Like, she was just there picking up a paycheck. To me, she added nothing to this film. I thought that she was a more accomplished actress than this, but to me, that was unless they just straight up told her, we want you to be exactly like you are in that show, just some tough as nails, hard nosed, but basically cardboard woman. They could have CG'd her, and I mean, I don't think she made a single expression in the entire movie. I was really disappointed in her because I thought that she was at least going to chew up some of the scenery, and I thought she was just nothing in this movie.
I do think you're hard on Viola Davis. I do wish that she were physically larger so that you would have that just that physical presence. But I do think that Viola Davis was a very intimidating person. Whether or not she's playing the same character she was on a TV show I don't watch, I can't say. But I do think that she brought that factor to Waller, and you're scared of this woman. You're scared of the lengths she's willing to go to. And I thought she did more with her eyes than Jared Leto could do with all his fucking wavy bullshit. But at the same time, I was troubled because, and this is something that's been a problem with DC for a long time, time, and I think it goes back to Jeff Johns having a fundamental misunderstanding of the character. To my mind, Amanda Waller is a good person who does bad things. She just has to work with the world that she's got, and she knows that she's working in the dark corners, and so she's willing to go to places that other people aren't, but she still has a soul. She still cares about members of her team. She's not like this inhuman monster. And one of the problems that I've seen in her adaptations to other media, and especially here in Suicide Squad, is she is a sociopath in these movies. She is willing to murder her own support staff because
I thought that was kind of messed up.
And that does establish what a scary person this is, but it also limits her because she can never be portrayed as an anti-heroine. She can never be associated with other heroes if you're going to write it from an ethical place, because if she's hanging out with Batman, a character who's always been massively tainted by the horrible writing of the character in these movies, and then she does the thing that she does and he hangs out with her and gets information from her and shit, that's completely out of bounds. That is so, that makes him a villain too by association. And I think the thing that's interesting about Amanda Waller, besides the fact that she will go to places that other people won't, is that she still finds a line where you could see where somebody could stay on her side. You could understand why people would support her and why she'd be able to continue to operate as she does. But by making her a pure sociopath the way they do in this movie, and especially under these circumstances where she's directly responsible for the death of an entire city, she can't function. And here's one of the greatest supporting characters they could have had in these movies. Here's an actress who I think does a very good job, and they've already ruined her first time out.
Yeah, when she shot all those dudes in that room, I was like, I thought that was kind of gross. And
I thought that was kind of weird.
I didn't see any precedent for her to do an action like that, and I didn't see her show that kind of heartlessness later on in the film either. In fact, she was going to give freaking Deadshot anything he wanted there at the end, and I was like, wait, this is the same chick who just shot a bunch of her coworkers?
Well, and that's too.
She's trash, dude. That was terrible.
And she's supposed to be redeemed by putting BET in and getting the cappuccino machine and this kind of stuff. It's like, you fucking straight up murdered people that trusted you and were working closely beside you. Why would anybody believe anything you say? You have no power beyond what you can enforce through those explosives, because there's no reason for anybody to trust anything that comes out of your mouth.
That dawned on me. Yeah, you're right. When she killed all those millennials that were helping her out, but yet she's very lenient toward the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it's bad writing, just as simple as that. They wanted to have their oh shit moment, and then they try to walk it back, and you can't walk back murdering your associates in cold blood.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it almost felt like whenever he was writing the script, he found one of those who's who of DC and just read the description of it and never really read the book.
I'm telling you, he
didn't even do that. He just listened to the Who's podcast on her.
He was assigned those characters. I'm telling you, he was told what characters to use, and he was given an idea of who those characters were. Jeff Johns probably sat him down in a room and gave him notes. I seriously doubt he was allowed to research and decide which characters he did and didn't want. I guarantee you there was a room full of people who by committee decided who was going to be in this movie and who they wanted to promote, and then he had to write from there.
I could see that.
There was something else. I was going to say something else.
He finally got one in.
He finally got one. Damn it. So here's why I can't decide if I liked this film more or less than Batman vs Superman, because at least it wasn't 3 hours long.
True.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and they didn't try and go, like, there were so many offensive tones and subjects that were trying to be shoved down my throat in Batman vs Superman. There was nothing like really offensive about this movie. Like, it was just a shitty action movie. You know what I mean?
No, there's a lot of offensive shit in this movie, especially if you're concerned about
that is true.
Genders
we've talked about some that it's brought up more that maybe I hadn't really considered as much. Like, again, I find the double amputee Vietnam War veteran who suicide bombs Congress, I find that kind of offensive. Okay, like, I find it's sort of poor taste, and all the Jesus allegories, etc., the 9/11 imagery. I find all that stuff really, really poor taste. So I didn't find anything that poor in this movie, but this was more obviously a shitty movie, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, and its basic construction was much more fallible than Batman vs Superman.
Right, which is why I think that's reflected in the Rotten Tomatoes scores, because Rotten Tomatoes, it's not a 3 stars to 5 stars. It's just a yay or nay, and it's just getting more immediate nays than Batman vs Superman got. Because I think if you're not really paying attention, you might actually think Batman vs Superman was just okay. And I think a lot of people, they just see Batman and they see Superman and they fight and they're like, oh, this is okay. And then all the imagery and all they don't get it, so they just think that it's deep. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't actually think about the film, you're like, oh, that was like super deep about, what if like Jesus and stuff, and and then like, oh my god, he blew up Congress. That's crazy. Like, I could think how you could think that's a deep film and it had Batman and Superman in it. So you like, whereas I think this movie, like, it's, like I said, it's just more obviously poorly constructed, cliched, with a bunch of characters that you don't like. They're way more hateable characters in this movie. Although I didn't like the characters in Batman vs Superman either, this one just has more crappy characters in it. So I just think it's more obviously bad, but they're both really bad.
Batman vs Superman was more offensive to conservative ideology, and I think Suicide Squad is more to a liberal one. So it's interesting. They're both pushing buttons, but they're pushing buttons on different sides of the aisle. And I come at it from a different place in that I understand that Suicide Squad, by its very nature, is going to be more fucked up, and I have to give it more allowances because these are criminals doing bad shit. I can't say that I have a greater affection for the members of the Suicide Squad than I do for Batman or Superman, but there are certain key ones like Croc and Waller that bother me as more than Batman and Superman themselves. I find this movie less offensive to me overall just because I can take a lot more of it for granted. Where with Batman vs Superman, that's a movie about global icons, global heroes that are intended to be at the foremost for children. And so addressing the themes they do as poorly as they do bothers me a lot more than this movie that's just a bad movie that does some stuff that I think is gross, but it's ultimately to characters in Suicide Squad. So it's, I would definitely say that this movie offends me less, even though the areas that do offend me in terms of the politics are more gross to me than the ones from Batman v Superman.
Really? Okay.
It's definitely
there's a lot of thought into that.
It's a worse movie, like you said. It's a lot less thought went into this movie. It's a lot more of a Shaggy Dog movie, but at the same time, I don't invest as much emotionally in it. And I do think the visuals, I enjoyed the visuals of this movie more. I enjoyed the explosions and all the goofiness and shit, but I don't want to revisit either one of these movies. I'm not committed to this shit. And what's getting me too is Wonder Woman's going to come out next year, and I'm definitely going to watch Wonder Woman. But to some degree, that's sort of my last. I might take it to Justice League, but really, if they fuck up Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman's own movie, I'm going to have serious questions about going into Justice League. And really, if they fuck up Justice League, then I'm pretty much out because I don't care enough because I don't care enough about the people they've chosen to be in the Justice League. I'm not invested in those characters, so the movies need to give me a reason to keep going seeing them. The Marvel universe, obviously, I'm a DC guy. I've been invested in Marvel more in recent years because of the movies specifically. I don't read a ton of Marvel comics, but I enjoy the movies. I enjoy the vibe of their universe more, and that's drawing me back into their comics after being away for a long period of time. DC has already alienated me to such a degree by all the gross fucked up shit that's in this movie is also infecting their universe, because a lot of the same people, I think the comic book people have a lot more power at Warner Brothers than they do at Marvel, because you've got Jeff Johns with a major voice, you've got a bunch of the people that are involved. They're basically going to movie people and telling them what's in the comics. These are the movie people that are making these things. They're not fans like they are at Marvel. They don't have any Joss Whedon. They've got Zack Snyder's. So the comics inform the movies more, and the comics are awful and gross, and now the movies are gross. And so all it's doing is reminding me of how much I hate what's happened to the DC universe in the last 15 years under the current power structure. And I'm hating what's happened to Warner Brothers, which was a company whose movies I used to like a lot more too. So it's alienating me from the entire production line, their entire enterprise in all facets of media. It's turning me off. So really, I could walk away from this whole fucking thing and just stop and just, I'm done. I'm tapped out. I don't want to watch your cartoons. I don't want to watch your movies. I don't want to read your comic books.
The other thing was that, there may have been, offensive things going on in this movie, but, the characters, I don't care that they really screwed up Harley Quinn or I don't really care. Whereas, with Batman and Superman, when they do them like that, even though I don't like Batman and Superman, those are important characters to American literature. You know what I mean? To American pop culture. And when I see them fucked over like that and doing gross things, like saying that they could have stopped up a suicide bombing, but part of him didn't want to, that stuff really, really pushes me off away from those movies. So that's why I can't, like I said, Suicide Squad was obviously it was more obvious a bad movie, but I don't know if I liked it more or less. It's close for me. I'm not sure. Sorry, I think I just repeated myself over again.
No, I think you summarized it. It was good. He's been leaving a lot of messages. He recently discovered it and has been talking it up a lot. So we don't get comments like we used to have, in part because we don't foster that. And we openly mock the audience as well. So that's probably just
oh, we do?
Oh, yes, we do. Oh, yes, we do.
Come back. No, leave.
Just for a little bit.
Randy Caldwell wrote, "Well, actually, the Jim Ballant Alan Scott series was in Green Lantern Corps Quarterly. The current New 52 Alan Scott is a different person on a different parallel world from the old, original GL. I totally agree with you on Hal Jordan. He is a tool and always has been. I like the name Randy Cladwell. Dr. Angie Fever ordered one. Why did you have to do a show about BVS and make me think about it again? That movie stunk. 2. Frank trashed it for 2 hours, then said it was tolerable. Imagine the rant if he hated it. 3. Count me amongst the many all in and excited for Wonder Woman. She was the best part. Dear studio audience, I have an announcement to make. The 108th Sage, Adam Blackmoon, Ainge, Anthony Durso, The Austin Socialite, Chris Sheehan, Coffee and Comics Blog, Comic Book Insurance, Comic Reflections, Darren and Ruth Sutherland, Dr. G, Nerdologist, Ed Moore and Ed Moore Jr., Elementum, Fire and Water Podcast Network, Joseph Crawford, Carl Zlee, Keith G. Baker, Michael Bailey, Nethead, Pod Dylan, Professor Riptide, R. Ryan Daly, Scott Bachman, Scott Rowland, Silver and Gold Podcast, Son of Cthulhu, Stella, Sin, The Mean Geek Podcast, and Trekker Talk. We swear to shake it up, and you swear to listen. Oh, we're still so young, desperate for attention. I aim to be your eyes. Trophy boys, trophy wives.
The preceding program is a non-profit fan production. Any copyrighted materials contained therein are believed borrowed under fair use with no copyright infringement intended. Please feel free to leave comments at Rolled Spine's Productions WordPress blog. You can also send us Twitter comments through the Rolled Spine Podcast Twitter. Thank you for listening.